Johnson and Dabney in the game. Reese, right up the gut, and it's a touchdown for Baylor.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Penix fires, touchdown Polk.
The Sikkim 365 Radio Friday show is brought to you by Bird Culchin Ford.
UT is lined up to go for it with under 6 to play in the first quarter. They run the option, Simpson around the right edge. The freshman goes pinballing over the pylon. What's the call? Touchdown, Tennessee.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
30th play of the game for SMU. They want a punch, and they have a punch. Do they have 6? Yes, they do! Touchdown, R.J. Maryland. That's how you atone, young man.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Daniels to the end zone, has a receiver, touchdown West Virginia. What a strike to Sam James, 24 yards, and just before the half, Mountaineers answer.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
It's a fun offense to watch with a lot of toys for Grayson McCall. Gets the snap out of the shotgun. From the pocket, deep down the sideline, wide open. And with an easy path to the end zone, it's Jared Brown. One play and a 50-yard score.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
It is the day after West Virginia jumped back into a pretty good positive situation after their 0-2 start with losses to rival Pitt. And then also, of course, that loss to Kansas that now looks, it's still a loss. It doesn't look maybe at this time quite as bad because of what Kansas has done to start their season. They have Duke tomorrow. But what a nice night for Neil Brown, the Mountaineers, for JT Daniels, for the running game, the defense, special teams. They win. They needed to win. They have Texas on the road next week, and the Mountaineers hammered Virginia Tech 33-10.
Yeah, it was a needed win, like you said. It also going against a team that's struggling to find their identity under a new coach and punch them in the mouth, even at home. They did that. There was some early momentum from Virginia Tech, and looked like they were having a good time, but they didn't let that phase them and got through. And that was something they were going to need to build some confidence because only one win against Towson so far. They played two good teams beat them. They needed to beat a team that doesn't have an identity right now and doesn't know who they are in Virginia Tech.
Well, yeah, they definitely needed that win. That was a really good win for Neil Brown and just all the talk surrounding, the program with the 0-2 start and even last week's win just being Towson. It is what it is. They needed to see that team beat somebody that was, eye to eye with them. And I don't know that Virginia Tech's eye to eye. I think that West Virginia is definitely looking down at them after last night. That was a game that West Virginia, had they lost that game, and they tried to on multiple occasions, that might have been fire Neil Brown type territory. Like, really, they had no business losing that game to Virginia Tech. None. No business losing to them. That was way too close at halftime, given how I felt that game was going. I thought West Virginia was clearing away the better team. And the fact that they ended up winning by 23 was really a lot more indicative of how that game was. I think besides some mistakes, they could have won that game like 42-10, whatever, But it ended up about where it probably should have. Yeah, definitely some things to like. I mean, I love watching C.J. Donaldson, and to think that he's as young as he is. It's going to be really fun to watch the rest of his career. Vatek, they've got some issues, man. They got talk about identities and things like that. I don't know what theirs is exactly right now, but West Virginia just shut down pretty much anything that they were trying to do. So yeah, great win for the Mountaineers. Played really well. Shut down the Hokies in a lot of respects, and were able to see some good things offensively. So I thought it was a nice win for them.
Across the board, offense ran the ball well. Daniels was clean. They really dominated the line of scrimmages. They also had the pick 6 on defense and the 4 field goals from their kicker. By the way, already off the top, Jeffrey Foster, $4.99 super chat. Everybody seems to be calling for Neil Brown's head, but at least we can say He is undefeated against Virginia Tech. Let's go Mountaineers. It was a nice win, and they did separate. And the score right before the half was kind of the one that really probably maybe, I don't know if it deflated, but it might have deflated Virginia Tech a little bit. They dominated most of the second half.
It deflated West Virginia maybe a little bit because that shouldn't have been as close as it was at halftime.
No, but they scored right at the end of the half. West Virginia did, to kind of give them a little bit of like something. And I think that's what kind of gave them some momentum into halftime, into the second half, where they, well, again, Virginia Tech just didn't. And most of the field goals, in fact, all 4 field goals were 38 yards and under, which means they were right there on the doorstep of scoring even more. They just couldn't get the touchdowns, although they did get the one offensive touchdown, the 3 touchdowns, and also the one included in that is the pick 6 on defense. Let's see. Wet blanket. Iowa State has only let 27 points be scored on their defense all season. Baylor and Iowa State, our pregame tomorrow, by the way, 9 o'clock right here on KWTX and here on 365 Sports.
Yeah, but one of those games was against Iowa, and, Kirk Ferentz doesn't have an email address, so I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I want to go back to Neil Brown for a second. I don't know how many people are calling for his head. I think it's just natural conclusions being made when they start off 0-2. I don't think anybody's out there going like, yeah, fire Neil Brown. I like Neil Brown. I don't want to see them fire him. I want to see him work out. I don't know anybody that's like anti-Neil Brown. I think it's just, perhaps rival fans say that to be anti-Neil Brown. But I think the talk about it really has just been, kind of where they are now at this point for how long he's been there. And the fact that, it was 0-2 to start off with. And you just kind of look around and you're like, okay, who is West Virginia? Where are they? What is their place? Where are they going? And, you did have to take into account they had a tougher schedule than most right out of the gates. A couple rivalry games. And they've managed to handle their business well and bounce back nicely from that first loss. That's the one you wish you could have back was the initial loss to Pitt. But, I think they got back on the saddle in a good way last night.
All right, so we'll hear from Jed Drenning. He's the sideline reporter for West Virginia. And I know that the chat room has been kind of quiet, West Virginia quiet. There's a few flare-ups because they're frustrated, but already, again, good to see the Super Chat come our way. Now, again, tomorrow, 9 o'clock, all the games in the Big 12. We'll look at those in the top 25. This C.J. Donaldson's an interesting story. The running back, Craig, you brought him up. He was actually recruited as kind of an H-back Swiss Army knife. He's a big back. And Jed Drenning has a great story about him because I don't think they were looking at him like a Taysom Hill, but someone who's kind of that he can do a lot of different things. And then all of a sudden they look up, the defense couldn't tackle him. They have 3 running backs like over 150 yards for the year. And Donaldson had 106 last night. Mathis has nearly 300. And also Justin Johnson Jr. is doing well for West Virginia. Max Olson will join us here in just a moment pretty quickly today. Grayson Grundhoeffer, 345 on Baylor, Iowa State. Taylor McCarg, ESPN at 4:30 on everything college football. And then also today over at Lorena, they're playing home tonight. And they're being given that Lone Stars Directors Cup for the best overall athletic and academic school in Class 3A in Texas. We're going to hear for a moment at around 4:45, 4:50 from their principal, Kevin Johnson, as they are presented the award thanks to Texas Farm Bureau Insurance and what they do for high school athletics. Paul also spoke with VolQuest writer Brent Hubbs, Sam Bradshaw at 5:30, and Paul's Top 5 a little bit later on, of course, in the day. Now, you want to do this after Max or before Max, the Kliavkoff?
We're going to have to do it after.
All right, let's break. We do have some quotes from George Kliavkoff and some of what he wrote as the University of California system is at least discussing UCLA and leaving for the Big Ten. I don't see how in any world that's going to change, but he made some arguments on behalf of the system for the Pac-12, and a couple of them are hypocritical or contradictory because of what they were going to be doing with the possible alliance with the ACC and the Big Ten, and a couple of them probably make sense. We'll get to that a little bit later on in this hour. Max Olson, theathletic.com, college football's weekend is next on 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco, a hidden gem, and right now, even if you had trouble finding the hidden gem, it's behind the bank, or you couldn't get to the hidden gem, you can get on DoorDash and you can make your order from there. So they're available on DoorDash. They have a great selection of craft beers, the best in Central Texas. It's fall, roster churning, some really good stuff going through there. Plus the best selection of local craft whiskeys, whether it's Balcones, Devil's River, TX, Garrison Brothers. If it's made in Texas, they probably got it at Riverbend Liquor and Wine and all the different varieties of it. So there's, 10, 12 different varieties at a time of Balcones. Believe me, they've got it there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street here in Waco. A great drive-through window, amazing customer service, and really just a variety of things. They always do great promotions you can find out on their Instagram page. All of that happens at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th behind the bank.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco. Because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. Save big this month on a new 2022 Dodge Charger GT and get $500 bonus cash with 2.9% for 72 months. Plus, first responders get an extra $500 off your purchase. Stop by today or browse online at AllenSamuelsDCJ.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Max Olson of The Athletic. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
I mentioned yesterday Max Olson's article on Jalen Daniels of Kansas, and we will get to that with Max, who now joins us, 365 Sports here on this Friday before another weekend of college football. But I want to start with West Virginia last night, Max. They needed a win. They were emphatic, especially with what they did in the second half and how important that was for Neil Brown and the Mountaineers.
Yeah, needed it is the right way to put it. I think that it would be, just the mood around there would be pretty rough right now if they were 1-3. It was impressive for sure. Obviously, Virginia Tech, with first-year staff, not their best football. They couldn't run the ball out whatsoever on West Virginia. But I was really impressed. I thought their defense played well. I thought JT Daniels really flashed and stuff. And I thought the running backs they've got at West Virginia looked really good. And over time, you saw the offensive line clear room for them to be able to run the ball. You expect a Graham Harrell offense to fling it around a ton, and they are at West Virginia, but I think they're kind of figuring out their strength is P.J. Donaldson and those backs. And so, guys, it's funny watching that, and obviously watching Kansas Houston last weekend. Like, who's the bad team in the Big 12 this year?
Oh, there's no gimmies. There are no gimmies, yeah.
I mean, somebody was going to have to go 5-7 or 4-8, I guess, but as of today, I don't really know who that's going to be. I think probably all 10 of them probably feel like they can make a bowl game this year.
Yeah, and there's a couple teams we don't know much about because they haven't played anybody like TCU, but TCU's not going to be 2-10. So
right.
Who's the stinker, Max? I couldn't even figure it.
And that's that's important for West Virginia. Maybe you could see them potentially being that team, but I thought that was a good rally. They've got some good parts there, and so they're going to go down to Texas next weekend. And that will be a great sign of their progress. But I think West Virginia is going to continue to get better. And, like I said, you look at this conference race, and we're probably going to end up where we often do, where there's probably going to be some really good teams that go 5-4 in conference play this year.
Max, you wrote about Jalen Daniels and what an unbelievable season he's having, and how just the fates of Kansas have completely turned around. What did you really learn about him by getting to dive into what's going on there in Lawrence?
Yeah, it was a really impressive kid to talk to. That's someone who's gone through a lot so far in 2+ years at Kansas. Obviously signed to play for Les Miles and play for Brett Dearman, who left after a year. He got thrown into it as a 17-year-old true freshman starter. And you guys, I wrote about it in the story, but you remember he came to Waco in that 2020 season, the first Big 12 game of the year. That kid had to play as a 17-year-old true freshman and only been in the program for 3 months, and it was pretty rough. I mean, he had a pretty rough freshman season. Was one of the worst passers in the country just statistically, and to see him really blossom under this coaching staff, really develop, has been really fun to watch. That offense is really terrific. What Andy Kotelnicki's doing there, very multiple. They added more option elements this year for Jalen Daniels, but with the motions and the shifts and all the misdirection they do, they've built a pretty tough offense around Jalen Daniels. He's a kid who really does believe that he can turn around Kansas football, and he's worked really hard. And it's cool to see them start 3-0 and really have a reason to really believe and be optimistic that you knew they hired the right guy in Lance Leipold, but I didn't think the results would come quite this quickly.
And I guess they're favored against Duke, Max, to start off 4-0. I mean, time will tell, obviously, tomorrow, but they'll be at home. They are slightly favored. I guess my only question with Kansas is just how well are they going to be able to handle the distractions that inevitably are already creeping up because of Leipold and open jobs around the country, starting with Nebraska?
Yeah, that's certainly going to be something that kind of hangs over this for Kansas and probably for Iowa State as well, that, having that Nebraska job out there, he's just probably going to continue to get questions about it and about how, what's his plan in terms of how long you want to stay at Kansas and are you going to entertain these things and all that. And it's delicate. I mean, you gotta try and answer that stuff the right way, but sometimes that's and you guys saw it last year with Orlando, and with every year with Rule, sometimes that just comes with the territory when you've got a really good coach and everybody everybody can tell you're doing something pretty special. So I don't think it's going to be too big of a distraction. That's a coaching staff that does have a bunch of coaches who are, who coached in Nebraska or from Nebraska, their wives from Nebraska. So, if Trev Alberts turns his attention to Lance Leipold in November, it'll be interesting, I'm sure. It probably would be hard to turn down that job if they get offered it. But, at the same time, with the success they're having right now, you certainly don't feel like Kansas is a dead-end job. You feel like if he wanted to stay there and keep building it, I wouldn't blame him. I think there's a reason to be pretty excited if you can have a season like this and really generate some real momentum there.
No doubt. It's a very cool story. I mean, we're getting close to them being the lovable losers. Do we all hate them again? Like, hate them because they're actually a good football team. But you mentioned Aranda and Campbell. They're going to clash tomorrow in Ames. A big game, Iowa State and Baylor. Your thoughts on Cyclones and Bears tomorrow?
From folks I've talked to at Iowa State, Matt Campbell really likes this team. I think they kind of feel like this team has the feel of that team in 2020 that went to the Fiesta Bowl, that they've got some really good players and a team that's really come together. And, starting 3-0 was a big step for them, obviously. And I wouldn't sleep on them, guys. I really wouldn't. I think Hunter Deckers has a chance to be one of the really more dynamic quarterbacks in the Big 12 this year. I think he's got a huge arm. He can really make all the throws. And as he gets more comfortable in that offense, I think he's going to be a big problem. So I think in some ways Baylor maybe is catching them at the right time because it is kind of a young team in some ways, but they're really talented, and I think that Baylor's going to have their hands full. I think it'll be, like last year, a game that, 4 quarters all the way down to the last few minutes.
We had the Iowa State sideline reporter on. We were asking him about the difference between Purdy and Deckers, and he was like, man, the arm strength, whatever else, and he's very impressed with him. And, of course, he's just now getting the opportunity to play. And, yeah, it's just the series is very close. These two teams have been fighting for that same turf, Max, like TCU and Baylor there for a while. And it's become a very intense and very competitive series. To me, this is a game that if Baylor can win, it sets them back up to be a part of the run, although Oklahoma State coming right down the pipeline. Do you feel like this is a game that kind of sets them up, whether or not they'll be involved in late November?
I do. And, at the same time, like I said, with the way this race is kind of shaping up, I mean, I think if you lose 2 conference games this year, it doesn't mean you're out of it necessarily. I think there's going to be, I think there's a little bit of margin for error here. And so that'll be interesting to see. I don't think that anyone should go on a season just off, if whoever, whether it's Iowa State or Baylor fans, I think you're still going to have a pretty good shot here. But, I'm with you. Yeah, I think that this is a great chance for, Baylor's got to continue to take those steps and have those players step up that, replace those seniors that were so invaluable to last year's team and that leadership you had. And, I love the breakout from Reese. I'm interested to see kind of who else starts really, kind of emerging here as those guys they can rely on. But, big opportunity here for Blake Shapen against a defense that's still really good and has one of the best pass rushers in the country in Will McDonald.
Max, we are to the strongly worded letter portion of the Pac-12 battle to keep UCLA. I know George Kliavkoff has to do this, but is this a good look to just write a letter to the board, or just why don't you just let him go?
Yeah, I mean, I in terms of the politics of it all, it's a good question because I thought that too last night, just reading through that. I mean, are you really going to keep them? Are they, how's that relationship going to work moving forward if you've blocked their departure to the Big Ten? I don't really like what are the next steps on that part. That's hard to kind of wrap my head around. I certainly get it in terms of like from a revenge standpoint and just making it more difficult for UCLA. I get it, I suppose. I mean, obviously, when we all went through this in the Big 12 last year, you had those hard feelings. And I remember talking with Bob Bowlesby at the time, and he definitely said he had a lot of feelings that he wasn't proud of at the time. And I'm sure George Kliavkoff has a little bit of that right now. But it's a good question. Like, I mean, what's really the end game? If you block them from going, I suppose that makes your conference stronger. But, can you really hold a whole university hostage in your conference? It doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Max, Texas, you kind of wondered how they would bounce back after the loss to Alabama, and they bounced back nicely, especially in the second half against UTSA. I know there's still questions about, availability at quarterback and whatnot. But what are your thoughts on them going into Lubbock tomorrow? And, Red Raiders coming off a tough loss to NC State last week on the road.
Yeah, I think you have to say these last two games for Texas is kind of where you're starting to see some progress, where certainly against Alabama, you felt like going into it was going to probably be a blowout, and that game would have got away from them in the third quarter. And against UTSA, as much as you tell your team to take UTSA seriously, you still fall behind 17-7. And, if this were Texas teams of old, they would have potentially lost that game. They would have found a way that would have been a tight game and a losable game. And so for them to take care of business, and really lean on Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson, I thought was a good sign for them. Yeah, this next one's a trap, and they kind of fall hard in this conference. But Texas can't mess around with Tech. Obviously, Donovan Smith needs to limit his turnovers and kind of make that secondary pay for Texas. But I think it's going to be, whether yours is available or not here, I guess we'll see on that. But this is a big one for Texas in terms of. You can't take this one lightly because Tech can put up a lot of points, and we know as they get more and more comfortable in Zach Kitley's offense, they're going to be a problem. So, I think it's I think Texas will pull it out, but wouldn't be that shocked if they messed around and Tech found a way to win it.
All right, one more question for Max. Craig, you got another one for Max?
Sure. I'm trying to think. Florida, Tennessee, or A&M, Arkansas. Which one do you think is more interesting tomorrow?
I think probably A&M Arkansas. This is going to be, Arkansas. Obviously, they can put up a lot of points with KJ Jefferson, but defensively, I think that they have some dudes. Obviously, wasn't their best effort against Missouri State, but with the way that Drew Sanders is playing this year, the Alabama transfer, and the guys they picked up, and the experience they have at linebacker, I think it's going to be a really good test for A&M to, you're going to have to. A&M cannot go shot for shot with this Arkansas offense. I really don't think so. So. I love the Aggie defense and what they did last week against Miami, but this is going to be a week when Max Johnson or whoever ends up playing at quarterback, they've got to be really sharp because they don't want to get into a shootout here with Arkansas. I think they're going to be in a lot of trouble if they do. So big week for A&M to take some steps offensively because this game is not going to be easy.
Max Olson, appreciate your time, Max. Thanks for coming on today. Max Olson, theathletic.com with us on Friday rather than Thursday. Going back to Neil Brown, this is in the chat room, and then you guys want to follow up on anything Max just said. From Travis H45 Gaming, the deal with Neil Brown is the coaching mistakes. No question he can recruit. He's a wonderful guy, but the odd timeouts, the clock management has been the question.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with that. It's like the first game, the stickler that people still have from not going forward against Pitt, right? I mean, that was right out of the gates, and that was a decision that still lingers with them now when you look back on them losing that game. And no, I think you're absolutely right. There was times last night, not necessarily Neil Brown decisions, but just self-inflicted wounds that you're kind of like, come on, man, like get out of your own way. And I feel like he has gotten in his own way at various times, because of certain decisions. So, no, that's a reasonable critique. And I'm with you on the rest of it. I've said since day one, I like Neil Brown. I want him to do really well because I don't know why necessarily. I just saw some of his interviews and how he kind of carries himself. And I don't know, I like Neil Brown. I think he seems like a good dude. So, that was good to see for them last night. And you're right. He's got to clean up some of his own self-errors. But outside of that, there's a lot to like and a lot of reasons to be, excited about Mountaineer football under Neil Brown if they can correct some of those mistakes.
Joey Foster just said hello. Joey's been kind of
what's up, Joey?
Laying low. And Joey's, howdy. How are you doing, Joey, and all the West Virginia fans who have taken kind of a semi-beating for a couple of weeks?
He probably just woke up. Late night last night.
I talked to Mike Montoro, and also Jed Drenning's going to join as sideline reporter at just after 4. They got home and you think, Virginia Tech, West Virginia. They didn't get home until around 4:30, I think is what I was told, because we reached out to get an interview. That's why Jed's going to join us at just after 4. That's just right around the corner, isn't it? Blacksburg and Morgantown. Someone on the chat room tell me how many miles that might be.
If only we had a way to look something like that up.
Yeah, but I'm tired. I don't want to get on the app. Paul, you going to do that? 275 miles.
That's not short.
No, I don't know what it is. I'm guessing. Let's see if the chat room will help us out.
Or elsewhere about what Max had to say. I'm very curious about A&M and Arkansas. I think I might have picked Arkansas originally, and I don't know how great I feel about that because I kind of leaning towards A&M as we get into Saturday. And
it's 250.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards A&M.
I was back and forth on that game.
I'm not.
It's a 5-hour drive, according to Owen, who's also a huge West Virginia fan. Owen and, of course, Joey, great to have you in today.
I'm not back and forth on it. Arkansas's got a better offense. They're good, but A&M has not shown the ability to me to score more than 17 points in a game, and if they do 17 points in a game against Arkansas, they're going to lose by at least 4. So I don't know. I'm not a believer in A&M's offense.
Yeah, I maybe they'll just get it out like they did against Miami. It's going to be an incredible crowd. They'll be calling the Hogs, and there'll be whoop and all the other stuff going on as well. Scott Cherubino, we would have beaten Pitt if C.J. Donaldson had run the ball during the 4th and inches play. You'll never convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
From Sir Blah, Blah, Blah is over the hills and far away. Blacksburg from Morgantown. I just was impressed. They have 3 running backs, and all of them seem to be capable of taking on the load of whatever you want them to do. And Donaldson is a big kid, like 6'2", 200-something, and he was good to watch last night. That defense, they still have a Stills on that defense, right? Like it's like 9th year.
Yep, they do.
They had the brothers that tortured Baylor for a couple of years, and they're very, very, very good. About that. All right, Garrett, put up the tweet.
Vodtech offense also kind of sucks.
No,
so I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm
It's
not
a
trying
win,
to take
though.
away from
Yeah.
West Virginia, but I think it's also fair to say, yeah, Vodtech's offense sucks. But
the tweet from Nebraska, about Nebraska, this one from, this was sent to me by Ryan Krug. Any truth to Dave Aranda to Nebraska? Thank you for asking. I'd love to see them hire somebody. Let's put this to rest right now. Just like when he was reportedly the leading candidate or major target at Oklahoma, USC, LSU, Notre Dame, Florida, or name a program. And if Auburn opens soon, I'm sure that one will be a part of it too. People are jumping to a lot of this. I get it, just like Leipold or Campbell or Kleiman, Chris Kleiman to Nebraska. I get it. It's frustrating if you're a fan base of one of those schools. It's just where we are. We now have immediate, from the almost week 1, coaching list and coaching searches and coaching speculation. I don't like it.
I will tell you, and it's going to be everywhere. If you see a list that's a top 10 list, like that's just people may because I do them on top 5s, they may fit. But really, when you look at coaching searches, especially national ones like that, like huge things like that, do consider the source that you are getting it from.
if there was a hot board out within 24 hours, that's completely made up because nobody's put together their stuff that quickly to have not only it all put together and a list put together, but also to then have given it to a reporter who turns it around and puts it out. Like it doesn't happen that fast. So, maybe by now, a few days after some of these, there's some, seeds that have been dropped and some things that have been mentioned that have something behind them. But, yeah, a hot board that's like 24 hours from a firing, that's totally just a guessing game completely.
Here's also something that was brought up to me in a direct message.
I need you to go back to that Dave Aranda tweet. I mean, you just said what you said, but, I mean, what's your reasoning for saying that?
I don't think there's anything at all, not even a thought about it. Here's another thing.
Because we can all just say something and be like, oh, Dave Aranda's not interested, but like, what's the umph to it?
I just feel like I felt just because of what I felt last year when all the rumors about Aranda to everybody else. I'm just what I have been pretty much my own due diligence.
Okay.
It's not silly. It's very flattering for Baylor and Dave Aranda. I'd call him. I'd damn sure talk to his agent. I would try to ask him if he'd be interested wherever I was. Two of the things also that I've seen a couple of Nebraska fans, a handful. Well, wait a minute. He's already got Mickey Joseph and Bill Bush. He knows them. How long has Dave Aranda been the head coach at Baylor?
This is 3rd year.
Mickey Joseph and Bill Bush were not hired by Aranda when he opened up the job at Baylor. They were not hired by Baylor or Aranda when he made coaching changes.
Yeah.
And they've had other coaching changes. Mickey Joseph is a heck of a coach. He's a good recruiter. And Bush is an old veteran, They didn't hire him in the first place. I don't think that would be the connection for him heading to Nebraska because he didn't hire him when he was at Baylor or has been at Baylor.
Only angle that I've seen that seems even reasonable for an advantage for Nebraska in, let's say, a Dave Aranda race is simply Big Ten money. And that's it.
Well,
It's not recruiting grounds.
Nope.
It's not, I know they've got a bigger fan base, but I don't think that means that Baylor doesn't have support. I think he's got all the support that he wants. They've got a bunch of facilities in the works, and I know now I'm going to sound like Kansas fan explaining why Lance Leipold won't go anywhere, but truly, though, like, what outside of the Big Ten money that's going to be pouring in, I know that that's what a lot of people believe is going to just change the landscape automatically, is that now you're going to see these 20-plus schools that have so much more money than everybody else that it's just going to be like their own little world, and then everybody else just kind of trying to pick what they can left over. And I get all of that, but I don't know. I'm sure there's a price tag that even a Dave Aranda could not say no to, but at the same time, if that's the only advantage that you're really speaking of, that just doesn't seem like a Dave Aranda move to me.
No, I would encourage people to read Dave Wilson's column that he wrote about Dave Aranda on ESPN.com. And there's a line in there that really sticks in my head because I've heard it from two of the other coaches on staff. After they won the national championship at LSU,
yes,
he said he had this feeling of, is this all there is? That even doing that and being part of something that was so unbelievably great, and for a school that has a couple of the national titles that LSU does, that was maybe the greatest, most unbelievable one in all of that. Like, just the amount of talent in that team, what was going on there.
It's arguably one of the best teams ever.
Ever. Top to bottom, talent-wise, I mean, there's three teams you can put in. And he just felt there's something more
missing.
And
yes,
is he going to have that feeling, achieve it in 3 years at Baylor, and go somewhere else? I cannot tell people enough how different Dave Aranda is than literally 100% of the other coaches I've met in my life. And I've met a lot. You've met a lot. Craig's met a lot. He is unique. So that Nebraska could just come and say, like, here's a vault full of money, that whoever wants him is going to have to come a lot stronger.
Even though John McClain said it's always about the money, I think there are a handful of people where it actually, when you're making pretty much some great cash, it's not always about making even more great cash.
It is to some extent. If they were to say, here's $100 million guaranteed, like, okay, like, yes, you probably have to do that.
Like,
but
live?
I mean, yeah, but exactly. If they want to live golf it, then yeah. I mean, maybe even Dave Aranda does that. But outside of that, I don't think any of us are worried, and Nebraska fans can read into that what they want to. But we're not your delusional, like, he loves it here, and listen, it's not that. It's just that's Dave Aranda, and I'm not worried about it.
It's a great program, a historical program. It's a blue blood program that has not been really good for like a decade, and not like Texas and what they've been through, worse. Or like even Oklahoma in the 90s. That was bad, but it was only for a small amount of time. Miami's been through ups and downs, but again, it's not the same program. And you can discuss whatever, but the recruiting situation, they're a nationwide recruiting. I know I hear a lot about the ties to Texas. They have done this. Mitch Sherman mentioned. They just signed a deal with Playfly for all of their content that was with Learfield. It ran its course, and Trev Alberts signed a deal where they're going to get $273.6 million in guaranteed payouts for their content. More money than even what Alabama gets. Now, I'm not trying to say it's the same, but it's called MMR agreement. That ended with Learfield, who runs a lot of the schools around the country. It's pretty much ahead of the curve. With a couple of things. And what they're trying to do is put things in position now. So if, in fact, anybody's interested, then they have a few more nuggets to bring to the table, not just who they were in the 90s and the 80s and the 60s and the 70s.
Okay, and for those that don't know, he's a Nebraska fan, so all this self-pity talk and all this crap about, like, if anybody's interested or if, they're low, they're not as lowly as you make them out to be, and you know that, but you're trying to make them sound like they're freaking...
If the coach...
If anybody's interested, that's what you just said. There's going to be plenty of people interested in the Nebraska job.
Yeah,
it's not Dave Aranda necessarily.
I thought the hire of Scott Frost was make it or break it. I don't know what this one will be. If he can't do it, then who can? There's somebody out there that can turn them around. Just like other programs have found there's somebody to turn them back into who they were. Will they ever be who they were? No. Things have changed. All right. When we come back, Grayson Grundhoeffer, Sikkim 365 football analyst and also recruiting analyst with us. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340, east of 84 in Waco. Ted Teague, the general manager. And their lot has vehicles all over the place. You can see it when you're driving off on the Loop or Highway 6. Their lot has just tons of vehicles, including, for example, new cars and trucks. They have the best deals in Central Texas when it comes to bang for your buck and how much there is to look at. This month, on the new 2022 Dodge Charger GT, get $500 bonus cash with 2.9% financing for 72 months, and first responders get an extra $500 as well with that purchase. Meanwhile, the new 2022 Ram 1500, designed to be durable, functional, and stylish, luxurious leather trim seating options, exceptional leg room, storage plus surround view camera options that you want and you can add to it. And also, of course, you'd expect that from a premium truck. Motor Trend's Truck of the Year back-to-back years. Alan Samuels on Loop 340 east of 84. AlanSamuelsDCJ.com.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at GencoFCU.org or at any branch location.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
We're fighting hard at Pickup Outfitters in our battle to end truck nudity. But it's not just about putting an outfit on a naked truck, it's about making sure you have the very best customer service. So we offer the Pickup Outfitters Lifetime Installation Guarantee. Over time, sometimes your outfit needs a little tune-up, maybe some tightening, adjusting, whatever. If you outfitted your truck at Pickup Outfitters, that tune-up is absolutely no charge for the remainder of the time you own that truck. We also offer free warranty assistance. If for any reason you need to use your warranty, you just bring it back to us and we take care of it. It just makes sense. I mean, operating without a promise like that would be like offering customer service in the nude. And if you've seen our staff, trust me, you don't want that. So do your part to end truck nudity by outfitting your truck, Jeep, SUV, or van at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco, where we promise to serve you fully clothed. Check out our website, createacommotion.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Grayson Grundhoeffer of Sikkim365.com. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Boy, every one of you on the chat room got some great discussion going on, from coaching searches to West Virginia last night to the weekend games. It is fun that the games are going on and all the different stories in college football. Grayson Grundhoeffer, Sikkim365.com. Grayson, we are asked, you are one of those that does that asked us to predict games. Now, I'm not very good at it, but I did, and I think a lot of people on staff have predicted Iowa State to beat Baylor in Ames. And it seems like a pretty overwhelming amount. What are your thoughts about the game tomorrow in Ames?
Yeah, I think that this is kind of the perfect spot to see a lot of different opinions, because I think based on everything that we've seen and kind of everything that I've seen on this game, it's projected to be a really close game. And I think everyone who covers the sport looks at this and goes, okay, these are 2 really good defensive teams, but how good are they offensively? And I think that's something that we're going to probably find out of both of these teams tomorrow. And, I think the thing that also makes this really exciting is just how close these 2 teams have been over the past, 3 games they've played. Every game's been within a touchdown. Even when Baylor was terrible in 2020, that game was still a 7-point game. Charlie Brewer had an opportunity to go win that game as well, or at least tie it at the end. So every game's been really close. Both these teams are very good. I think, on the Baylor side of things, I think everyone's trying to figure out, is this passing attack going to turn a corner at some point this year? Are they going to be able to throw the ball downfield and create some explosive plays? And, they didn't have Ben Sims last game. They haven't had Monterey Baldwin for, part of the BYU game. And then, of course, last game as well. And those are 2 big-time pass catchers. So I think that both of them will likely be coming back soon. I think both should play, according to at least what Dave Aranda said earlier this week. If they do play, I think that'll help Baylor's passing attack. We know they're going to try to run the football. The problem is the team that they're playing in Iowa State is giving up 60 yards rushing per game. So they're going to try to take away Baylor's strength. And I think on the Baylor side of things defensively, Baylor's going to try to take away Iowa State's ability to run the football as well, while also creating some pressure and trying to create some turnovers, which have been hard to come by during the early part of the year for this Baylor defense. So lots of interesting, I think, styles going on. I think both these teams are going to play really physical, and I expect it to be a very, very close game, and we're going to get to know a lot about both of these teams after the game on Saturday.
Xavier Hutchinson versus the Baylor secondary is a matchup that makes me a little bit nervous, Grayson. How do you feel they're going to attack him?
Yeah, Paul, I actually, going into this game, I think that it's going to be more so about containing him than it's going to be stopping him. And I'm kind of doing that based off what we've seen so far this year. BYU had Chase Roberts. He went for 120 and a touchdown. Texas State had Ashton Hawkins. He went for over 100 yards and a touchdown. So you look at those 2 guys, they're not nearly as talented as Xavier Hutchinson. So, if I were to bet on it, I'd say he's probably going to have 100 yards and a touchdown on this Baylor defense, just based on kind of how things, have shaped up in the early part of the year. And that's okay. If he does get 100 yards and a touchdown, Baylor can still very much win this game. I'm not expecting Iowa State to only have, 100 yards of total offense. They're going to move it some. Baylor's going to move it some. And I think at the end of the day, you're going to give up some plays to Xavier Hutchinson, and that's okay, because I do think Baylor's going to try to take away the run game specifically. They're going to try to make Iowa State one-dimensional. And I also think, Iowa State, looking at the strength of the Baylor defense, they're probably going to say, okay, we need to spread the ball out a little bit, get guys in space, and probably throw the ball more than they have, just because the strength of Baylor's defense is, when you're trying to run the ball right at them, that's what Baylor wants them to do. And so, yeah, I think that he's going to get his. He's a very good player, one of the best receivers in the Big 12, might be the best receiver in the Big 12. We'll see. And, they got a quarterback that's going to give him every opportunity to make plays. But I also think they have a quarterback that's going to give Baylor quite a few opportunities to make plays as well.
Grayson, in hindsight, are you surprised they didn't try to land a wide receiver in the transfer portal? Or did they try to land a wide receiver in the transfer portal and there just wasn't anybody, I guess, that fit?
Yeah, Craig, that's an interesting point, and one that I kind of thought about a little bit. And I think at the end of the day, the fact that, R.J. Sneed left to go to Colorado, and I think they probably kind of sat there and went, okay, so he's leaving, is there someone in the portal better than R.J. Sneed? And I just don't think they got one that was available to them. And I don't even think R.J. Sneed would have been a big part of their offense this year, but it's more so to say, they didn't even feel like he was going to be a big part of their offense. So if they were going to take a transfer, it needed to be someone that was going to be, a big part of the offense. And when you look at kind of the guys that went into the portal, a lot of those guys got picked up by big time programs. Alabama took a wide receiver transfer. Texas took Isaiah Nayor. He was a big time transfer. I think, those were kind of the, two guys that I remember kind of looking at the most. Outside of that, there just wasn't anyone that was a surefire, like, hey, we know he's going to be in our, top three. And if you can't find a guy like that, then you might as well allow your young guys to grow and develop.
Grayson, if Baylor had gone to Provo in a game that was absolutely bang, bang, and I thought when in overtime, what was it, the second overtime, they were at the 5-yard line or whatever overtime it was, I thought they were going to win the game, despite everything, despite an offense that was sputtering. Had they won that game, would you think they would win an Ames, or would that matter?
Yeah, to me, that doesn't really matter. And I know that there's this idea that, they lost early, so it was kind of a wake-up call.
No.
I don't buy that. I think they lost a really physical game in a game that they should have won. So maybe it's more so, we can't take, games for granted. Maybe you can go to that side of things, but it was so early in the year. This is the first Big 12 game for Baylor. If you can't get up for this game, if you can't get excited for this game, then you might as well not compete for another Big 12 championship. This is a huge game for them. You're going on the road. You're facing a team that, there's been a lot of stories written about Iowa State versus Baylor in recent years. A lot of people not necessarily trying to create drama, but there has been some drama and a little bit of fire in this matchup. And so, I think this is a game that Baylor wants to win very badly. And I truly don't think that, winning or losing that game against BYU has any repercussions on this game. But you never know. Maybe Baylor does play with a little more sense of urgency, knowing that they've already lost the game. But again, I just think it's so early in the year that I think you're still kind of trying to figure out who exactly you are as a team. So I don't think they're quite at the phase yet where it's like, we lost this game, so now it's time to turn it on, which is what they did when they lost to TCU a year ago.
Abram Smith was the dude. He was the guy, no matter what Ebner brought to the table, which was a lot of things, that they knew that they could pound him 20, 25 times a game. How many game carries he got? Does Baylor have somebody on the roster with Tay McWilliams or not who can actually do that on this team?
Yeah, you see, my initial, thought is that is Tay McWilliams. I think Tay is that guy, and, not having him does make things a little bit tough. But I will say, last year you had Abram and you had Ebner. You had two veteran guys who, were very, very good and very powerful, and they went and got you, a yard, or Ebner made a big catch. And I think for this team, kind of look at what they've done. Richard Reese and Squirrel and Quaylen, they don't quite look like, Abram. They're not quite dragging people like Abram did. They're not running people over like Abram. Quaylen did against BYU, but in general, they're not really built like that. But I think Squirrel and Richard Reese specifically are two guys that can be absolute game changers at the running back position while Tay is out. And I get this sense that those two guys are going to be relied upon heavily in this game. Quaylen will as well, especially on pass blocking down. He's a better blocker, very physical guy. But I do think they're different, but I still think they can get the job done. And I think we saw that in the BYU game, especially with Squirrel. As the game got deeper and deeper, he just seemed to wear them down a little bit with his speed, and he's still pretty physical as well for a guy that's not that big. I know they got stopped, on that goal line drive there at the 5-yard line, but in general, it definitely felt like he was imposing his will on the BYU defense. And so I'm anxious to see if he and the offensive line, of course, are able to do that in Ames this weekend. That would be a good sign going forward.
If you needed a running back to squeeze through a keyhole, who would you want, Richard Reese or Squirrel Williams?
Yeah, it's a healthy Squirrel Williams. And, I know that Richard was unbelievable against Texas State. But here's the thing, Texas State's not very good at all. They're not a good football team. That's not going to be a bowl team. Whereas what we saw from Squirrel against BYU, that was another level because he wasn't getting amazing blocking. There wasn't a ton of, free holes for him to run through. But you could tell he was moving people and he was running away from people. And I think Richard will get there, but I think Squirrel, the fact that he's been in the Baylor program for as long as he has, I think that it gives him an advantage as far as seeing the hole and hitting the hole very hard, which is something that Abram did amazingly well a year ago. I think I would still give the edge to Squirrel, but I'm telling you, Richard Reese, he continues to get better and better. He was a guy that we heard a lot about in fall camp as just a major riser, him and Quaylen. And we've seen that early in the year with Tay McWilliams out.
Grayson Grundhoeffer, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Fridays with us at 3:45. Also the Bearcast that they record. He and Craig on Tuesdays, released later in the evening on 365, Sikkim365.com. Grayson, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll see who is right. Not so much that, but we'll see the evidence. I love evidence, and we'll get it tomorrow in Ames. Thanks for your time. Grayson Grundhoeffer with us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Just got a chat room here. This is from the 213. He lives in California. He continues to say that he's been one of those, nobody in that area gives two blanks about college football. You have the Dodgers in this race to have the best record of all time. The Rams and Chargers are in town, and it is a pro sports town. But Monday, let me see here. As a resident of Southern California, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I do not see the Pac-12 or any nationally competitive football conference surviving in California's future. Now there is a glimmer of hope. USC, the college football exception, due to its historical football booster base and the pageantry and memories of its program. That aside, there is very little, if any, visible interest in football any longer. You never see jerseys or hats, local sports chatters about the Dodgers or the Lakers, and even now, of course, football is in full swing. Football is never the topic of discussions at parties or functions. No bragging rights at the office water cooler on Mondays. Personally, I do not know one soul that has any interest in the game of football on a Saturday in California.
Well, I mean, that certainly makes sense when you look at some of the crowds. Go look at the Cal attendance, and I believe that. That could be an accompanying picture to that text right there. A UCLA home game. I mean, we've all seen those being made fun of a couple different times this year. Immediately, it's the sun and the beach. And, we get the reasons why, folks. We're just making fun of the fact that, you clearly do not care about college football out there. And then we're fed all these reasons as to why. It's like, okay, we get it. But, again, the point was not why you're not there, but just the fact that you're not there. So, I think that, obviously that person has a front row seat to it and lays it out in more detail. But, I think that's clear. And I wonder, kind of where demographics are going. It does seem like, I don't want to get into the weeds of population shifts and all of that, but it does seem like there are a lot of people leaving California and a lot of people coming to Texas and, a lot of things like that. So I don't know how all that adds up to, football interest over the long term in the state of California or out on the West Coast. I'm curious as to how it's affected with the Big Ten move, because now you basically take USC and UCLA and prop them up. Does that make more interest that a Michigan and Ohio State and these massive fan bases are now going to be involved on a weekly basis? Or does the fact that they're going to be playing half their games nowhere close to home make it even more of an afterthought? I don't know, but it definitely feels as though there's not nearly the level of chatter and talk just from here, from my seat here, much less there. So, I believe it.
Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams might save that.
Well, and look,
I was going to say, that's the one thing that's not been happening lately.
And he kind of mentioned that with USC's tradition and heritage.
Yeah, that's USC. That's not UCLA. No. Right. But one of the things we're fed is, you want the Los Angeles market for your TV market, and this, 213 is saying, look, you can have the Los Angeles market. Nobody gives a crap here. So if it's September, late September, and the Dodgers are trying to clinch the pennant up against UCLA on a Saturday night,
oh my God,
what's going to happen? So
the number one SoCal fan base is neither the Rams or the Chargers. It's hands down the Raiders. In fact, it's not even close. Yes, the NFL will spend the much-needed promotional money to keep the interest flowing here because we are L.A. But outside of that, and USC to the Big Ten, All else with football matters not anything, not including UCLA and the Rose Bowl. To put it simply, football at any level is just not a part of the Southern Cal culture any longer. In SoCal, it's all about the individual sports and competitions beginning at grade school and graduating up.
And I would even make a guess that the Chargers are not even the third favorite team there, that the Cowboys might be above the Chargers, just because the Chargers are still, to most people in L.A., San Diego's team, even though they've had them for the last few years. So,
yeah.
Well, that's certainly not George Kliavkoff's burner account. That's the last thing that he wants to read.
I was going to get to some quotes from him, but we do have Jed Drenning. We might be able to do that between Jed Drenning and Taylor McCarg, who's going to join us at 4:30. Just a couple of quotes that I peeled out of George Kliavkoff's letter to the California system about UCLA. We could chew on that a little bit. Some of what he said probably makes sense. Some of it would be completely
wishful thinking.
No, what's the word? Not hypocritical. Completely different than when you're talking about joining with an alliance with the schools on the other side of the country, about travel and things like that. When we come back,
hypocritical is the right word.
Hypocritical? Yeah. Coming up next, Jed Drenning on West Virginia's win against Vautech. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace. And every day that somebody goes in there and they have clients or customers, patients, every day coming through there to be a part of their state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. I have been in it for my right shoulder, for my left shoulder, for my lower back, and for my abdomen. Once or twice I've been in there because Dr. Rob Maxey wanted me to experience it. And a couple of different times I've been in it because I needed information. And you get evidence, like football scores on the weekend. You get evidence because an MRI will tell you exactly what is missing or what is hurting and why. Ideal MRI also is $497 or less. If you are going to get an MRI and you don't take advantage of that offer, it's not an offer. That's their deal. That's their mission statement. $497 or less. If you go and get one for $1,000 or $1,500, you're throwing money out the window. Why? IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace, just on the southern part of Waco off I-35.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And Reese, no chance. It's a keeper. Look at the quarterback shaping. Fooled everyone. Touchdown, Baylor.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Jed Drenning, West Virginia sideline reporter with us, 365 Sports. And Jed, I know it's September. It's almost too early to ever say any win is a must-win. But with Texas on the road next week, 1-2, how critical, in a way, was the game with Virginia Tech?
Well, we had kind of a crazy start to the season. And, you know, that 0-2 start we didn't feel was representative of who we were as a football team. You know, we lost 2 close games to 2 good football teams. Turnovers cost us those games. I mean, we felt we had four turnovers that resulted in 4 touchdowns. And that was the difference between being 2-0 and being 0-2. And we didn't think that was a true indicator of what this team could do. So we cleaned up, took care of business against an FC opponent last week, but we knew that to turn it around on a short week in a rivalry game on the road, taking their best shot under the lights on a Thursday night in Lane Stadium, this was going to be a much more critical test for us. So now we're back to even at 2-2. You're not going to fix that 0-2 start, but what you can do is you can have what I like to call proof of concept. You know, when you win games, Smokey, as you know, it's easier for the kids to buy in even more than they already were with what you're telling them is effective, with what you're telling them is working. And so in so many ways that paid off. But the celebration with the trophy in the locker room was just exceptional. It made up for a lot of ills. It really did. I mean, this was the biggest margin of victory by West Virginia in Blacksburg ever. So this was a big win for us.
How important was it for Neil Brown?
A lot of the things I just said about the team, I could say about Neil. You know, I think that Neil has built a program that is on solid footing. Okay, we kind of had to start from scratch in 2019 because of the exodus after 2018. We lost so much to the NFL. We lost so much productivity from that 18 team. We were really starting from scratch in 19. And so to do so is always going to be a challenge. And then you went right out of that into the COVID year in 20. So in some respects, this is kind of like Neil's second year, not his fourth year. But he's done a tremendous job of establishing a solid culture. We've recruited very well. The atmosphere in the locker room is tremendous. The kids have always been buying in. It's just a matter of making those one or two plays to finish the game. We got to turn that corner and go from wins like this help you turn that corner in the sense that you go from waiting for something bad to happen when times are tough to when you win a couple of these games, you start waiting on something good to happen. And that's kind of the transition that we're in the midst of. So it was a big win for Neil. It was a big win for the program at large. But good feelings in West Virginia this morning.
I liked how the offense was able to do what they needed to do. Daniels was efficient. The running game was very solid. And then also the special teams. You had a pick six on defense. Defensive line was everywhere. Was it like almost across the board everything went pretty well?
Yeah, it did. And you know, the beauty of it, Smokey, is we didn't play a perfect football game. You know, we left a lot on the table. And, you know, we were 4-13 on third downs. You know, we didn't play terribly efficient football in the red zone, which is why we had to settle for those field goals. So any time that you can play a less than perfect game and go on the road in that environment against a rival and win by 23, you'd much rather have learning opportunities after a game like that than when it costs you and you lose the game. So we can still build, we can still get better, but all three phases showed up for sure. I mean, we needed this kind of outing from the defense to get back to what we believe we were all about defensively. I mean, we established a culture, and there's been a standard under Jordan Leslie that defensively there's certain expectations. And that was not apparent through the first couple of games this year. So the last couple of weeks, we've looked more like our old selves. These kids are playing well together, and we won the battle at the point of attack on both sides of the line of scrimmage, offensively, defensively. Special teams, as you talked about, Casey Legg, what a big night for him. He delivered for us. And you know, we had to overcome some great effort by Tech special teams, which anytime you go to Blacksburg, way back to the Beamer days, that's what you're expecting, right? I mean, who's known more for their special teams than the Hokies? And they kept penning us in adverse situations from a field position standpoint. We had to overcome those, and we managed to do that. So we collectively just came together, and everything clicked enough in that environment to silence that crowd at critical points and get this thing done and take control of that football game. And then you have a pick six by a true freshman. I mean, these are the types of things you like to see. But when you can hold the Hokies, they've struggled to run the football this year. I think they'll find their way. They're about to have some tough sledding on their schedule, and we're going to send them into it limping when you look at the next four games in their schedule. But that's the fewest rushing yards by a Virginia Tech team since 2015. That's kind of their identity. So to take a swipe at their identity like we did, Jordan Jefferson on the defensive line, Dante Stills on the defensive line, they played really solid football, and they're getting back to what they're good at.
So C.J. Donaldson's a pretty interesting story. Another 100-yard night. He was a tight end recruit. Is that correct?
Well, he was a tight end / Swiss Army knife, you know. When we recruited him, Travis Trickett, who's now the offensive coordinator at South Florida, recruited him, and I had these discussions throughout the process with Travis, and everybody was just excited about the potential of just how diverse this kid was, how many different things he could bring to the table. I mean, you're talking about a guy that played wideout in high school, played slot in high school, he had to play in the backfield some in high school, played tight end. You kind of thought he might project as an athletic tight end who could attack the seam and threaten the seam. But there was a point in camp where we were putting them through certain drills, and Neil started to recognize, wow, there might be enough potential as this kid, you know, maybe back here dotting that I or standing next to the quarterback and actually toting the mail. So he had a discussion with Chad Scott, our running backs coach, and he said, yeah, let's give it a try, because our defense was struggling to tackle him. I mean, he's a big physical kid. and nobody wanted a piece of him. And so we gave him a shot, and obviously it's worked out, and it's worked out really well because, you know, we have him, we have Tony Mathis, okay? And Tony Mathis is the veteran in that room as a redshirt sophomore who came on strong late last year, and he's had an exceptional start, Smokey, to the season. And then you got Justin Johnson. His best football game was last night, so it's kind of a three-headed monster. Like last night, CJ got dinged up. He bruised his hand, and that's why he was more limited in the second half. But Justin came right in, and we didn't miss a beat. Tony played well. So, yeah, we got options in that room. We got options in the receiver room, and that's the mark of a good football team when you can start leaning on different guys in times of crisis. But CJ's a special talent. There's no doubt about it.
So they get the win, emotional. They've had 2 rivalry games in a month, which is so rare. You might get one in non-conference. There might be one later in the year, but they've gotten 2 with Pittsburgh and now Virginia Tech, which it's a heck of a, if you think about just the non-conference schedule. Yeah, Vod Tech's down a little bit, but still the emotions of that game. And how critical was it, not just because of what we said to start, how close they were, but they weren't getting it done. Now they have an extra day or 2 before they hit the road to play at Texas.
I think it is critical. It's nice to rest up because, as you touched on, think of how emotionally charged these rivalry games are. And, there's never an easy time to go to Lane Stadium. But this wasn't like some sleepy early noon kickoff at Lane Stadium, right? We were taking their best shot. Primetime, national TV, under the lights. It's legendary and iconic what can happen at Lane Stadium on a Thursday night. The Hokies were 13-5 on Thursday night under the lights. Same thing in Pittsburgh. Prime time, the whole country was watching Thursday night, largest crowd in the history of the city of Pittsburgh to watch a sporting event. So these were rivalry games, but they were rivalry games where we were taking their absolute best shot. And you know what? That makes you better as a football team when you can withstand some of those blows and move forward. We're going to need these couple extra days of rest, and it's going to be fun to sit back and watch the Longhorns head to Lubbock and tangle with the Red Raiders as we get ready to head to DKR ourselves.
Thanks for your time. Enjoy the weekend. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, too.
Jed Drenning, sideline reporter for West Virginia. They beat Virginia Tech handily, 33-10. This is 365 Sports.
All right, thanks to Jed for doing that. He was up in the mountains with some business he was going to do as well, so he agreed to be on with us a little bit early today. We appreciate him after the win against Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. Now, yesterday, and you may have seen this, Max Olson, we discussed this with him as well. There was a meeting. The California system is talking and discussing UCLA's move to the Big Ten. George Kliavkoff had sent a letter. He also was in a part of the meeting. Let me go. I know there's 4 different quotes here, or 4 chunks here. Let's do the top one and then discuss it each one at a time. UCLA currently spends approximately $8.1 million per year on travel for its teams to compete in the Pac-12. UCLA will incur a 100% increase in its team travel cost if it flies commercial to the Big Ten, 160% increase if it charters half the time, another $13 million a year, and a 290% increase if they charter every flight, about $23 million per year. His argument here, which is one of the ones you've heard, is that by being a part of the Big Ten, some of the money or a chunk of the money they're going to get more in television is going to be basically a trade-off because of the travel cost to go play teams from the Big Ten.
Well, there's 2 things about this. One, clearly UCLA feels and believes on their math that even if they chartered 100% of the time and spent $23 million a year on that would be offset by the near $50 million a year they're going to make more in the league. 2, and somewhat more importantly, what's going to happen after he says, okay, not this. They're still spending money on travel wherever they go. He also wanted to partner with the ACC potentially. Like all these things.
On a lot of these we're about to talk about.
What is it? Why does it make sense that that's the argument?
It's not all 12 games are going to be at Rutgers, Maryland, or Nebraska and Wisconsin. So that was one of the quotes.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know how he came up with that. I would like to see how they determined what their schedule is going to look like and how they know that they're going to be traveling to all these different places, because they pretty much blindly had to just say, like, let's assume they're going to Columbus, dart. Let's just assume they're going to Illinois, dart. What did that all cost? Like, that's the only thing they could do. They don't have a schedule in front of them, so how do they know what the heck it's going to be? So that's for one. Like, that's a lot of numbers that they were able to accumulate based on no information, really, other than just guessing. I still don't buy how that all adds up the way they say it adds up. And I think you kind of killed it there, Paul, of this is the same conference that was talking about an alliance with a conference on the other side of the country, just as far, if not farther away in some cases.
And the Big Ten.
And the Big Ten. And that was all happy, joy when the Pac-12 was still going to be the Pac-12 and have to travel. But I guess the argument would be, well, that was only going to be selective non-conference games and whatnot. Well, it's not going to be that much more than it's going to be here in this situation. You're not going to travel 10 times across the country now that you're in the Big Ten. You're still going to have your handful of games. So you're going to have your handful of games that you go away. You have some non-conference. You try to keep those closer to home most likely. Mm-hmm. And then you have your handful that's like Michigan and Northwestern and whatever. How is that any different than if you were going to be going to Clemson or Wake Forest or Miami or whoever in your ACC challenge? So that doesn't make any sense when you were sitting there proudly raising the flag for the alliance 2 years ago, and now you're talking about travel issues and travel costs. Like, where did that come from? Because that wasn't an issue 2 years ago.
Five road games most years because they're going to
conference road games.
Everybody's going to try to get 7 home games. I'm just saying 5 road games in general. Okay. So you're going to have 5 road games in general, maybe 6 on a year where it swings around and hits you in the face. So of those 6 road games, only potentially 2 of them could be so far away that it's going to be a pain in the neck, right?
Well, if they play 9, and I don't know how many they're going to, if they play 9 conference games, and I'm using that number, it could be 8, maybe it's going to be 10, but let's say 9. You're talking about 4 or 5 games on the road. 4 or 5 games. If you would have had the alliance, you most likely were going to play a couple of those games, one in the Big Ten, somewhere in the Big Ten, somewhere in the ACC, and then vice versa. So, yeah, no, in the other sports, the non-football sports, it's not like they're going to go to Rutgers on Tuesday, fly back to California, and then head back to Maryland on Friday. They'll probably turn those in like they've done before. Stanford's done this, to elongated road trips.
Everybody does this in the non-revenue sports anyway. Look, Faith Lynch was in here yesterday, and they've got a trip that's
volleyball player at Baylor.
That is. I believe it's West Virginia and Iowa State in a week, or Iowa State and West Virginia. So they don't have to do that. So they're not bouncing back and forth, and that's more economical. And again, like, you're not going to do it that much. So I don't. And you're also going to do it.
He's trying to save his conference.
That's one school. You're about to do it for 12.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. No. Exactly. Now the next quote: published media research by the National Institutes of Health. Studies conducted by the NCAA and discussions with our own student-athlete leaders, show the move will have negative impact on student-athletes' mental health and take away from their academic pursuits. Now he's trying to tug at those emotional strings. I think student-athletes have, I know that now with the NIL and the perks and stuff that they get and the swag and all that, I don't know how they do it sometimes, even with all of what they get now, the bells and whistles. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy if you're just a regular student who's trying to, have a degree in education. But that's he's trying to get a little bit maybe into politics right here.
Well, also.
And he's not done with that either.
Okay, so when the UCLA basketball team was on the road for a month in
Indianapolis.
Well, I mean, the basketball teams are on the road for a month if they're good, regardless of whether it was in Indianapolis or not. They're home for 2 days and then they leave. So if you're in the Final Four, so when the UCLA was in the Final Four, the hundreds of millions of times they've been there before. I'd say hundreds of millions, but the tons of times they've been there before. Was it a big deal to them then? Like, it's interesting that this is the time you say, well, I'm really concerned about academic performance, but there's many other times where you have not cared when they're gone. And basketball is the example I'll give is if UCLA has a Final Four basketball team, they're going to be on campus of the 30-day month, about 4 of those days, really, generally on campus, not having to worry about anything else.
And Bob Kramer on the chat room, and then Craig, you follow up. Bob Kramer, that's a question each student-athlete needs to ask
How does
themselves.
he know? He can't answer that for anybody and say that they're just automatically going to have more mental health issues. That's BS reasoning on his part. And look, I by no means dismiss the mental health aspect in our world today and how much it's focused upon and how much more it's been, pushed to the forefront. But I do think it's fair to say that in some cases, and we can't sit there and necessarily pinpoint, it's being used as an excuse. And I think right here, it's being used as an excuse to not allow UCLA to go to the Big Ten. I'm more so than actually real concern for the student athletes. And maybe that's unfair to George Kliavkoff. Maybe he really does feel that way. But in this setting and for these reasons that we're talking about, I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. The mental health wasn't a question when you were talking about, again, pairing up with the ACC and the Big Ten 2 years ago. Not that different from what we're talking about right now. Granted, it's one school, because we're not talking about USC in this at all. It's one school, and it's just one other conference that they're going to. But again, it's not going to be all that different. So I'm thinking that this is one of those times where somebody's using mental health as an excuse to play into their favor. And I hate that because it really devalues the term, and it makes people question it when they hear that term. And that sucks. That really sucks.
All right, one more or so from Kliavkoff. And again, you have your own opinion on these, and some of you in the chat room do, and that's great. It would be a burden for family and alumni to face cross-country trips to see UCLA's teams play.
Well, tell them to go at home.
No, it won't.
Tell them to. No, it won't. Tell them to go at home first too. Apparently, if attendance at the cross-country away games is a big deal, maybe they should fight the traffic in LA and go to a home game too.
Yeah.
You might be able to fly to Penn State.
They're not going either way. And also, so much of what families are able to do now is a result of the NIL era, and they're getting plane tickets, and they're getting those kinds of accommodations in so many ways. So I think it's actually easier, and former parents of players or current players' parents can say otherwise, but I do believe there's a lot more freedom in terms of the travel and how that's doled out and how families are able to come to away games. So I'm not buying that reason either. And like you said, even before getting into the fact that that's kind of BS, is the fact that, they don't show up at home games either. So, what's the deal there? Yeah.
And then one more. This is, again, George Kliavkoff in his letter, and also the meeting with the Pac-12 or with California regions. Added travel runs contrary to the UC system's climate goals and works against UCLA's commitment to climate neutrality by 2025.
Okay, let me...
and go ahead.
Let me throw something out there about this and climate neutrality. While that's a noble goal, and I love planet Earth, the things that we do in America, and I just look into this on your own, but to make things organic is a very wide government statute if you're having an organic steak. And carbon offsets are usually what people use to talk about carbon neutrality, and carbon offsets are the biggest load of BS in the world. It's where essentially they say, okay, well, we're going to buy this much land and plant this many trees and do this thing to offset the carbon, and that's just nothing. It's not worth the paper it's printed on. So look, while that's just such a, let me try to get these California liberals to be like, oh my God, UCLA is going to, hurt the environment by going, come on.
Okay, so those are comments from George Kliavkoff in the letter to various people around the Pac-12 and the California system.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to see his comments, I suppose, although I think you can shoot holes through a lot of them right away because of the whole alliance thing. I don't think that maybe he does. Maybe he's just hoping people don't remember that when they're looking at all these points about cross-country travel and all that, because, man, that was sure being an idea that was celebrated in the time, wasn't it? And now here we are, and all of a sudden travel's bad. But, I can't get past that point, for one. But I know he's got to do what he's got to do. I guess the question is not so much – I mean, Kliavkoff really doesn't matter in this in the long run. Like, it's not his decision to make. It's a matter of what does the UC system want to do? Is this something – like, we know they can – in theory, stop this. It's a matter of if it's worth it. And I don't think it's worth it. I think it's silly, and I think that it's very, very much a political thing now. And I get why Kliavkoff's, trying to pull all the strings and moves that he can to prevent UCLA from going, to try and save some little bit of face. And I'm not even talking about the question of, like, okay, let's say they did stay. What would that even look like, and how stressful and just weird would that be? I'm not even talking about that. I just think in general it's just kind of silly at this point, and a little desperate. I take that back. It's a lot desperate, And I don't know how great this comes across the more it drags out. And yeah, it could in theory happen, but I just don't know that that's worth it across the board.
The Cal University system regents have met several times about the move, including Thursday. They have not said whether they can or will cancel UCLA's move, but several regents in California, of course, Governor Gavin Newsom, have questioned their decision. Well, when Texas decided to leave for the SEC, schools tried to go down to Austin and, let vent. Didn't do any good.
Okay.
None of them. Baylor tried, Texas Tech tried, TCU tried. They were all down in Austin, and I'm not saying they didn't want to fight for their schools. They should. But it was not going to change anyone's mind.
All right, so when A&M left, the governor of Texas was an Aggie.
Yes, Rick Perry.
When Texas left, the governor of Texas is the Longhorn, which doesn't help. Not only that, okay, let's go to California and Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, only thing he cares about is how much money you can give him so he can run for president or continue to run for governor and run for president in 2024. That's all he cares about. So that means UCLA people and USC people and all these people whose money is green who really don't care what conference the football team's in. All he cares, so when he says, yeah, I didn't know about that, that's just him making sure that when he walks into a donor's house that does all of a sudden care about these things, he says, well, I did what I could. That's it. That's all that is. So then he says, I did what I could. You spelled the name N-E-W-S-O-M on the check.
Mr. Hair Gel is what Bob Kramer just put in there, and now everyone's going down that pipeline as well. All right, one other note in college football. We have a couple more things to get to in this 4 o'clock hour, including a neat story about Lorena High School just south of Waco. Bettors have flocked to Oregon State this week after sportsbooks. This is for Phil Venzer, for our buddy in Vegas. After sportsbooks' initial line favored USC by 13.5 points. Minutes later, odds makers at Circus Sports put up the Trojans as only 5-point favorites. Bettors pounced on the discrepancy, causing the line to drop significantly at Caesars and tick up slightly at other sportsbooks before settling and a consensus number of USC -6 on Sunday night. That's, of course, this past Sunday night. Did they make a mistake? Or did they think USC was a 13.5-point favorite? Then it went to 9, and went 30 minutes later, it was down to 7. But they like to do things to make people react to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what happened with Circus Sports. In fact, they said they may have prompted a flood of bets, Beavers this week, that left one sportsbook with more money at stake on a Pac-12 game than any of this weekend's NFL games. So we were talking about the lack of interest, but when it comes to gambling, that money can come from like Tijuana or Nicaragua. It doesn't matter. Can it?
I don't know. I'm not like you're talking. I'm not a gambling guy. I have no idea what the rules are, where it's coming from. I mean, I know we can't do it in Texas, but yeah, that's interesting that there was such a discrepancy and that it swung as widely as it did because of that discrepancy.
88.2% of the money wagered on USC and Oregon State. The point spread was on Oregon State, including a $110,000 bet on Oregon State when it was +7, placed Tuesday in Nevada. Wow. It's a bunch of money. That's like that Mattress Mac guy.
I do. I wish I had the money like Mattress Mac where I could just...
You could lose it.
I could lose it.
Yeah, you could
lose
it.
Of course, he's actually a fantastic gambler, and he loses, but he also wins. Although I know, our friend Adam Winkler, when he made Mattress Mac made that bet, or he made that promotion, I can't remember, if so-and-so loses this game, everybody gets free dinner sets.
Oh,
it was dinner sets. So they got a dinner set out of that
God. From Sir Blah, Blah, Blah. New jets, by the way, coming online soon, will be far more energy efficient. By the way, 747 production ends this year. All right,
What is that about?
About the climate, about traveling.
Oh, okay. I was just, okay. You start talking about airplanes. I was like, I don't know what we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. So that's that. Now, Paul, no Taylor McCarg today. He's got a game at the last second, been asked to do a game in El Paso, so he's not available. When we come back, we'll do Kevin Johnson.
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
All right, we can come back. Lorena High School tonight will be presented with what is the Lone Star Cup, brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, one of our sponsors. And they're being presented with that today, halftime, I think, or pregame of their game tonight at Lorena High School, the defending 3A state champions. Did you have something else to add to that?
Yeah, I was trying to kind of figure out the behind the story on the Oregon State line that you were talking about. And, Joey Fiesel, lead college football trader for Caesars. We had a high opinion on USC, so we put out a number to kind of attract Oregon State money, and it worked. I think that's the basic gist of it, is they threw out a number that got people
that's what they do.
And it was a 13.5-point favorite, and I'm sure it probably has to do with the fact that Oregon State's 3-0 and pretty good, and they can score. And I know USC can score as well, but there are a couple of questions at least about them and, the competition level, compared to who they're going to play this weekend. And there's reasons I'm not necessarily going, Oregon State over USC, but, Oregon State's no pushover. So, yeah, they clearly, according to the lead college trader, put out a number to attract Oregon State money, and it worked. And that's why it went the way that it did ultimately.
And if Oregon State covers, wow, they'll be paying a lot of money. So that game, by the way, Taylor McCarg just put it up on Twitter in El Paso for Boise State at UTEP to do a game tonight on CBS Sports. So in the 5 o'clock hour, by the way, Paul Catalina will focus in on Tennessee. They have that game with Florida. Also, Sam Bradshaw, Sikkim 365 football analyst in Top 5. We have high school football tonight, pregame at 7. They're starting district. Midway is tonight against Hutto, 7 o'clock pregame, 7:30 is the kick. That's on Sikkim365.com online and also 106.7 FM, The Eagle. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, used to be, and need to be. And it's very simple. Go online, call them. You can go online. There's an email and phone number. And tell them that you heard what I was telling you or have been saying to you for a long, long time. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. The one that gets all the attention, it seems like when you watch television and commercials, is ED, erectile dysfunction, or your sex drive is not the same. That gets a lot of the attention, but could also affect your sleep. It could affect you gaining body fat, even if you're active, and also your energy. So find out if your testosterone level is too low. Contact them. He will set you up with an appointment. Take care of that. You get your blood drawn. He gets the results. And if your testosterone levels are too low, Dr. Petty gives you an option to get back to being the man that you want to be, used to be, need to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
High school football in Texas, full throttle. Week number 5 tonight. We mentioned we have a game at 7 o'clock. 2 different games. Conley will play Brownwood tonight on 107.9, Power 108. And then also our game at 7 o'clock pregame, which is going to be on Sikkim365.com online as well. There's a link for that, and on 106.7 FM, The Eagle. Now, there's something called the UIL Lone Star Cup. It's exactly what almost you see in college called the Learfield Cup. Texas has won the last couple of years. Their athletic department has been fantastic, and Stanford owned that for every year up until the last 2. In high school sports in Texas, they have that as well, 1A to 6A, depending on the enrollment of your team. It includes all the things you can imagine athletics. It also includes marching band, Paul, you're a judge, military marching band, robotics best, Congress, spirit, mariachi film, robotics first, academics, one-act play, all this. And I'm bringing this up because our title sponsor, one of them, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, is the sponsor of this annual award. And Lorena High School in Class 3A just south of Waco, tonight they're having this huge tailgate. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is cooking burgers and hot dogs and more for all the fans. Then Mike Garrick will present Lorena's principal, Kevin Johnson, with the award. And we had a minute just for a couple of minutes to talk to Kevin about what all this means.
Kevin Johnson, Lorena High School, what a year it was last year and what it is already this year, coming off the football team's victory against La Vega. To win a Lone Star Cup, which means the best athletic department, in many ways, extracurricular activities in the UIL for Class 3A, what did that mean to the school?
Well, it's big for us, Smokey. The Lone Star Cup represents from start to finish what a school accomplishes through their academics, their fine arts, and their athletic programs. So all those things throughout the entire year are weighted on point values based on the success that each of those programs have. So it's a total look at the entire school, and it's a big deal for our school. We've been close before, but we've never won it, and it just speaks volumes to the community, the district, and the kids we have in our school and the job that they do. So we're very excited about it and very honored about it as well.
And Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, of course, is the sponsor of it. What they do, of course, here locally and around the state of Texas is amazing. And what they do with really high schools in general, there is this thing called student athlete, this term that sometimes gets overlooked. And this is just another example that student athlete matters.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And for us, it's a big deal because we drive that home with our kids and whatever they're involved in. And we have almost 90% of our kids in our student population are involved in some sort of extracurricular event. So the academics drives a big part of that because obviously they've got to be, the no pass, no play, or they've got to be eligible to participate in those. But yes, absolutely, the academics is a big deal, and the more that the kids are involved in doing things, the better they're going to do in their classes, and so we see that on a consistent basis here. I'm very, very proud of what our kids do on that.
Mike Garrick, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, will present the award to the high school, which is awesome. There's going to be like this big pregame, the tailgate, and all of the festivities. How thankful are you to what they do at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance?
Hey, I'm going to tell you, they're a huge sponsor, and they get behind the UIL and the schools, and they're pushing the academics, the extracurriculars, all those things. And, obviously, just the tremendous support they provide to the UIL and the schools. I can't really say enough about that. They're coming out and providing a tailgate deal, giving away hot hamburgers and hot dogs. They obviously, each school gets a little bit of money based on the fact that we won the award, the Lone Star Cup. And then just for them to support the UIL in this process of awarding the Lone Star Cup and making these trips to all the schools and presenting it just is big. They're always, they come up big in just anything they do, and they've always been a big supporter of the UIL, and we really appreciate that.
One additional note about Texas Farm Bureau Insurance: they are the title sponsor, and they have been for years, of our annual Academic All-Stars team. Elite student athletes are honored throughout Central Texas.
Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Weekly specials going on through tomorrow evening until they close their doors. They're open 6 days a week, not on Sunday. Top sirloin steak for $5.75 a pound. Beef short ribs, $4.75 a pound. Bone-in pork chops for $2.25 a pound. And a pound of frozen ground chicken is $1.99 a pound. All snack sticks, $5.99 a pound. They have Gulf shrimp, tiger shrimp from anywhere from $7.35 a pound to $14.95 a pound. If you're a tailgate person like Blake Blackmar, you can get your brisket and tri-tip and sausage and wings and more. And by the way, tomorrow, he's got a couple of recipes cooking pizza. It's pretty incredible during our pregame show for Baylor and Iowa State. You can get charcoal, fresh cold beer and wine, and even soft drinks if you want, energy drinks, and all of the marinade seasonings, sauces, and more. Full-fledged bakery and butcher shop. Waco Custom Marketplace, the Bauer family, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, during Ram Power Days, shop the year-after-year award-winning new 2022 Ram 1500, designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. This is a truck that's legendary. Get the first-class feel and luxurious leather trim seating options, exceptional legroom and storage, plus surround view camera options you'd expect from a premium truck. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop for Ram trucks. Visit today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of health care while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of health care has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance, and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, back to wrap up this 4 o'clock hour. Craig Smoak will join us again in a minute. Next hour, we focus in on Tennessee, Baylor, and Iowa State with Sam Bradshaw, Paul's Top 5. And then sports tonight. Don't forget tonight, 10:30 on the CW channel. We will have the condensed version of what we do, the highlights thanks to Emery Winter of what he does. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock, our pregame Baylor, Iowa State on KWTX and also here on 365 Sports. Now, our picks. And I didn't keep up with these Big 12 picks, but we are in this college football thing that Levi puts together, and I think we're all three within a game of each other. Last night, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, so we can't pick that game.
No,
I would have picked the Mountaineers.
There is, I think that was on the ones we picked.
Yeah,
last.
we all picked the Mountaineers.
So we all did pick the Mountaineers.
All right, so let's start with TCU, SMU in Dallas in what has become a very intense rivalry. You have Dykes now at TCU. Was at SMU, our good friend, Tanner Mordecai, the quarterback at SMU.
I took SMU. I'm taking SMU in this one. I think they've got a little bit more offense, but I'm not totally confident in this pick.
Yeah, I think I took TCU. I understand the momentum for SMU. I absolutely do. Love Tanner Mordecai, but I'm going to default to Sonny Dykes here and think that he's going to get a little measure of revenge against his old team. Not that he's getting revenge. Quite frankly, SMU would be the one getting revenge, but I think that he's going to lead the Frogs and get them rallied up to win this rivalry game, or the battle for the hot skillet. I'm going to go with the Frogs here.
I picked TCU. Now, Duke and Kansas, a battle of unbeatens. We're not talking
Iron
basketball. Iron Skillet. Duke and Kansas in Lawrence. I'll take Kansas.
I took Kansas.
I'll take Kansas by a lot. I think Duke's a great story with Mike Elko, and they're going to play pretty solid defense all year. I don't think they have the horses on offense to keep up with Kansas. In fact, most teams like Duke just don't. Kansas is going to score a lot of points in this game, even in spite of Duke's good defense. I think Kansas wins.
All right, so all of us take KU. Texas at Texas Tech. I took Texas.
Yeah, Bijan Robinson is too much, I think, for Tech on defense, and not to mention all the other skill guys. But
I'm telling you, Roschon Johnson is a phenomenal player for them too.
It's going to be really. I think it's going to be interesting at times. It's going to be a really intense atmosphere. But I think at the end of it, it's going to be Texas.
Give me Texas. We might have to, like, midway through the year, do spreads just to make it even a little crazier. Yeah. But for right now, we are going head up. And, head up, I'm going Texas, even if it's in Lubbock. I just don't trust Donovan Smith to keep, a hold of the football. And I think that, with just Tech's O-line right now is not great. Smith's turning it over. I'm not so sure we don't see more Baron Morton. I don't know what the plan is there, but I'm sure it'll be a great crowd night. If this was like Saturday night, then maybe I'd lean more towards Tech, but it's just 2:30 in the afternoon, I believe. So, give me Texas here. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and they're a more talented team overall.
They can get let up in Lubbock at 2:30 like they can at 7, but yes, the night games can be amazing. Last year, Texas won that game 70-35. Kansas State and Norman against Oklahoma in a game where Kansas State coming off that loss to Tulane. And now Oklahoma, who just buried Nebraska the week before in Lincoln.
I think they get their shovels out and keep burying people. I think Kansas State has shown they don't have the offense, even on a good day or on a bad day for Oklahoma, to score with them. So even if their defense can hold Oklahoma to a rough day, that means that they've got to have their best day on offense, and I don't think their best day on offense is better than Oklahoma's worst day on offense.
That's pretty much it. Like, what are they going to hold them to 28, and they're going to go score 29? I don't think so. Not against Brent Venables. I'm going Oklahoma here. I don't think it's a good matchup for K-State. I know in years past it's been close, and there's been scares and even outright wins for the Wildcats, but I don't expect that here, especially in Norman. I think K-State's had to have probably a pretty long look in the mirror this week and try to figure out like what they can do to get this offense going. But Adrian Martinez is he's not the guy that I thought he and probably many others thought, like at the most optimistic, angle possible. All the good that you get from him and that talent translates over and gets maybe better coaching and doesn't turn the ball over much, like that dream scenario. That's not happening. If anything, he plays scared and worries probably too much about turning the ball over. And it's the Deuce Vaughn or nothing show. So, I'm going with Oklahoma here.
Yeah, I am too. And so a lot of these games have been pretty cut and dry. The thing about Kansas State is that Adrian Martinez has really not even had a game there that he had some clunkers, but he had some big games statistically with Nebraska and games that they lost, and he would then have that deadly killer turnover or so. He hasn't even been in that position so far. They've kind of tied him up, but let's see, Kansas State, Oklahoma, we all take Oklahoma. And then Baylor and Iowa State. So all of us are right down the road except the SMU-TCU game. Paul?
Do you know how many touchdowns that Adrian Martinez has thrown for?
I'm going to say none.
One. He's also got 0 interceptions, but that's because they're basically not throwing the football.
Yeah, he's not throwing the ball a lot. And maybe they just unleash him. I don't know.
He is 41 of 66 for 304 yards and 1 touchdown, and they played 3 games.
Yep. It's been kind of quiet for him. How many yards rushing does he have? Like 120?
I was actually thinking about that as well. Let me just real quick look. He's got about 150 and 2 scores.
And that might be where he's more dangerous. If he can hold on to the football and protect it, which at times when he ran a lot, that also was a problem with him. I like the kid. I hope he bounces back and has the rest of the year pretty good year. And then Iowa State home against Baylor. I picked Iowa State 23-20. You picked Iowa State 23-20. You picked Iowa State like 23-21 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So it'll be like a 50-35 game, I'm sure. I think, when you've got like 10 people picking, we're going to have a lot of identical scores, and we all kind of think the same way of like these not being big, high-scoring teams at this point and more defensive-minded. But, I think a game in the 20s, I wouldn't expect anything crazier than that. I also don't think it's going to be like 10-7 either, so like an Iowa State game. So, that's where I fell, and I just default to Iowa State being at home. I fully believe Baylor can win this game. I have full confidence that they can, but I just need to see it, dadgummit. The only reason I'd be saying I picked Baylor in this game just because I just think that they would play at their absolute best on the road early in the day against a very stout Iowa State team. And I can't believe that in this team just yet because I haven't seen that.
Well, we'll see it tomorrow, and we'll be back here tomorrow morning. We still have another hour to go in this show. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, our pregame Baylor Iowa State on KWTX, CBS affiliate in Central Texas, and also on 365 Sports. Real quick note, Paul, come back with the break. Tennessee and also Sam Bradshaw, Florida State, picked up a wide receiver among the best in the country out of Fort Lauderdale. And in fact, Alabama, Georgia, Miami, A&M, and Pittsburgh.
How about this?
We're all involved. And you're not a real big recruiting guy. You say, show me when you get there.
But I do think it's a big deal when Peter Warwick and Snoop Minnis show up at your hat ceremony and do the war chant on stage.
There you go. All right, when we come back, we'll discuss Tennessee. We'll also discuss Baylor, Iowa State again with a different set of eyeballs and eyes and ears and thoughts from Sam Bradshaw, Paul's Top 5, all that around the corner. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people you can count on for a great deal over the life of your car and for great customer service as well. They are the people that you can count on, and I've had to count on them many a time. Did not buy my car there originally, but I have gone over there and had it serviced a couple of different times and walked away with a smile on my face and with a car that was much better than when I initially gave it over to them. So the wait is over for those of you in the market for a car. Richard Carr has GMC trucks in stock. 2022 Sierras have hit the lot, and they're waiting for you to test drive today. Those trucks offer the best in class when it comes to towing. Strong steel bed, multi-pro tailgate, advanced collision avoidance, and a luxurious interior that includes massive touchscreens, 14 camera views, and premium comfort. So trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. Those 2022 Sierras, get to the dealership now and drive those today. And if the exact truck or SUV is not on the lot, get on their inbound vehicle list and cut in line, basically, for trucks that are in production but not quite in stock, or let them help you design the exact truck or SUV that you want. And Richard Carr will have GMC prioritize it for you. So if you want to drive your current car longer, you can also check out their award-winning service and collision repair, as I mentioned at the very beginning, I have done before. And go to richardcarr.com to see their service specials and set an appointment for quick and reliable service from the dealer you can count on. So whether you're looking to buy new, buy pre-owned, or just get some collision repair or award-winning service, they've got it all there for you. One-stop shop over at Richard Carr. In business for 23 years in Central Texas. A reputation, again, as the people you can count on. Run by Proud Wacoans, Proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial Exit.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Let
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must-like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
UT is lined up to go for it with under 6 to play in the first quarter. They run the option. Sampson around the right edge. The freshman goes pinballing over the pylon. What's the call? Touchdown, Tennessee.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Okay.
Welcome back in. 365 Sports on your Friday. Paul Catalina, Smokey, and Craig are on their way to Midway. I'm wrapping up the show here, and then we'll join them shortly. But one of the big games this weekend, maybe the biggest in college football this weekend, Florida at Tennessee. This is an old school rivalry that for a long time has been out of balance, and it was one of the best rivalries of the 90s, early 2000s, especially in the late 90s when both those teams were going really, really well. Brent Hubbs of VolQuest.com joins us now. Brent, what's it like to see this game be relevant again?
Well, it's fun. It's why you cover college football, and it's not just game day in town. It's just the big game feel, the excitement of the fan base, sold out stadium. This is what you're supposed to be doing in college football. This is what you want college football to be. It's why Kansas is so special this weekend, right? Because they haven't been there. Tennessee's trying to get back to where they were when so many of these games were like this, and they just haven't had that. They've had some moments. They had Oklahoma in town, great crowd. They couldn't finish that one off in overtime in the Butch Jones era. Butch Jones did beat Florida in 2016, the last time game day was here. But it's just not been on a regular basis like it was in the late 90s, early 2000s, as you mentioned.
Now, this is a team in Tennessee that has had a really nice start to the season. That whatever Pitt has got people, believing, and also it doesn't feel like one of those things like, okay, yeah, you had a nice win, but they've had those in the past. That Josh Heupel's really building something. Do you sense an air of confidence about this team that hasn't been there in a while?
Yeah, I do, and I think the biggest reason why is quarterback. I think for the first time in a while, I think Tennessee fans and Tennessee people, university people, athletic department people, feel like they're going to this game with an advantage at the quarterback position because of the way that Hendon Hooker's played. Tennessee, through the years here and all their multiple coaches, have had moments where they had good quarterback play. Josh Dobbs certainly jumps out there. But it's been since Dobbs that they've had quarterback play like they're getting right now at Hendon Hooker. And frankly, Hooker's more productive than Dobbs was in terms of passing the football. Part of that's due to Josh Heupel's system. But Tennessee's got a quarterback that can go. And I promise you, if you look at everybody around the country who's ranked high, one of the things that jumps out about that team is they got a quarterback who can make their team go.
Yeah, and Hendon Hooker, a lot of people, I was surprised to see his rushing numbers because I always think of him, some of those rushing touchdowns he has. He has really improved through the air to where it's almost, pick your poison, and he's not really what you'd call a running quarterback anymore.
He's not. I mean, I think he's gotten much more comfortable throwing the football, particularly vertically down the field. When he arrived from Virginia Tech, one of the knocks on him was he was a dump-off guy. He always took the check down. Part of the reason why he didn't win the job over Joe Milton to start the season last year was he was too conservative in spring practice and fall camp. He didn't let her rip. And then once he got in the game, he got the opportunity to start playing and found some success and really opened up, his part of the passing game by being willing to throw it down the field, which you have to do in this offense. His game has really taken off, and his legs are still a big part of it. I think his legs are going to be important in this game. When you look at this matchup, Utah's quarterback rushed for 90 yards against Florida in week number 1. And then last week, Florida gave up over 100 yards to South Florida's running quarterback. So Hooker doesn't have to run for 100, but he's got to run enough to keep Florida completely honest and make sure Florida can stop a running quarterbacks, which they've struggled to do thus far this season.
Yeah, Gary Bohannon, we know him well, came from Baylor. So, had Florida on the ropes. What are the thoughts about Florida? They had that great opening win at home against Utah, but since then they lost to Kentucky and really looked sluggish last week for most of the game against South Florida. This is a team that's better under Billy Napier, but they still got to get the guys. But how do you feel about the matchup with them going in?
Well, I think it comes down for Florida. It's the unknowns of Anthony Richardson at quarterback. Is he going to be cut it loose and run around and do the things we saw him do in the Utah game where he rushed for 3 touchdowns and 100 yards? He's not done that since that game. He's been a little bit banged up. They're really suspect behind him at the quarterback position. I think Florida's been a little bit conservative in terms of how much they've cut Anthony Richardson loose. And I don't know that he's been very confident to run the football. If you can make Richardson stand in the pocket, then I think defensive coordinators feel like they've got a great shot to defend Florida because he hasn't proven he can be a consistent passer. The best thing he's done is create plays with his legs and scramble drills or just in absolute quarterback runs. So I think the big question about Florida in this game is how does Anthony Richardson play? For Florida to have a chance to win it, I think he has to play really, really well. And then the other thing for Tennessee is can they contain a mobile quarterback and stop the Florida ground attack? A year ago, Matt Corral came in here for Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin looked at Tennessee's defense and said, we're just going to run quarterback power until you stop it. And Tennessee didn't stop it. Corral ran for 190 yards against Tennessee. So can Tennessee stop a mobile quarterback if Anthony Richardson decides to tuck and run?
What is your favorite memory of this rivalry?
Oh, goodness. I was standing on the field in 98 when Tennessee won in overtime and beat Spurrier for the first time and got that monkey off of Fulmer's back. And obviously the place just exploded with fans on the field everywhere. The 2001 game in December was the closest thing I've covered to a college football playoff game before there was a playoff game. I mean, that's the way fans had always wanted that game late in the year to decide the division. 2 top 5 teams going at each other in Florida, and just a whale of a football game. So the 0-1 game was probably the more impressive game. The 98 game carried more significance for Tennessee. James Wilhoit going from GOAT to hero. You miss the extra point, you come back and kick a 50-yarder to win. You don't see that very often. And then on the flip side of that, there's a lot of scars for Tennessee fans. You got the Gaff-Eaton catch, no catch in 2000. Tennessee's lost on 2 fourth-down plays at the end of the game in the Butch Jones era. They found a bunch of ways to lose this game in this series. The question is, can they find a way to win this game on Saturday with the college football world watching?
I know he's gotten an extension already, and the fans love him. But what is the overall feeling about Josh Heupel right now?
Oh, they love him. I mean, he's playing an exciting brand of football. They're scoring points. They're relevant. They're ranked. They went on the road and beat a ranked opponent on a day where they didn't play their best. Players speak glowingly of him, talk about how enjoyable he is to play for. Josh Heupel's not backed away from anything this week. He's not gone into a shell, and he's not been testy, and he's not tried to clamp down media. He's not done anything like that. He has taken the approach this week of, we welcome the stage. We enjoy it. We worked hard to get here. We got to go prepare to play on it. But there's a lot of confidence and competitiveness with Josh Heupel, and I think the Tennessee fans like that. The other thing, too, and this is not a knock on the previous guys, but it's going to sound like it is. Josh Heupel's got an identity. He's got a plan. You know what he wants to be on offense. We now know what they want to be on defense. They have a brand, and quite frankly, Tennessee has not had a brand in a long time. And I think that's something Tennessee fans are really enjoying, because they can get a sense of what this program is and what its identity is.
You know, one of the things I say on the show all the time is a lot of fans discount who the athletic director is and what their plan is. I think Tennessee is the exact example of that. Is Danny White comes in, again, gives the athletic department a new identity and has an overall plan and kind of breaks the mold of, let's let this ex-alumni coach, whoever, big shot, do this job. Tennessee and USC, to me, are kind of the poster children for, you get the right athletic director, all of a sudden your brand is back.
Well, yeah, and the one thing I'll give Danny White credit for is he is walking that tightrope, which is very difficult to walk, between innovation and tradition. He wants to uphold the traditions of Tennessee and all the things that make Tennessee what's made Tennessee for so long. He doesn't want to lose any of that. But he's also not caught up in, well, that's how we did it back then. Because he wasn't here when they did it back then that way. He respects that, but he also brings innovation to it. And I'll say this, other than football, he inherited an athletic department that was really stable. Baseball coach, stable, successful. Basketball coach, women's basketball coach, and Coach Harper's done a nice job. They were a little further along outside of football. Now, football is a disaster, and football is how you're judged. But he's been able to focus himself and channel everything on football, because some of that other stuff has been really stable. He's not had to mess with. But again, the best thing he's doing right now is threading that line between innovation and new ideas and not losing tradition in the process.
Brent Hubbs, Volquest.com, with us here on 365 Sports. Brent, enjoy the game tomorrow. I'm infinitely jealous of you being there. It's, again, I'm a Florida State fan, but I grew up in Florida, rooting, against the Gators. But I will tell you, that's one of my favorite games all the time, is Tennessee, Florida. Always tune in, always watch it, and always wanted to be at one, especially up there in Knoxville. So enjoy the game tomorrow. I'm sure it's going to be a doozy.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Should be a wild scene in Knoxville, that's for sure.
Brent Hubbs, Volquest.com, with us on 365 Sports. Sam Bradshaw, S11, is next. Stick on 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people. Good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
It's time for our weekly segment with Sam Bradshaw of Sikkim365.com.
Let me know when you're ready. All right, good deal. Welcome back, 365 Sports, Sikkim 365 Radio here on Friday. Friday means Sam Bradshaw, S11, Sikkim365.com with us. And Sam, this game this week rightfully is giving, I'm sure, a lot of Baylor fans pause because this is not only a tough place to play, this looks like an Iowa State team that is pretty darn good. They've got Xavier Hutchinson. They've got a quarterback that seems kind of fun. There's not a lot of things to make you think that this is just going to go easy in Ames on Saturday.
Thanks for having me on. And yeah, this Iowa State team's pretty solid. And Ames is usually a pretty good home field advantage for them. And it's going to be a challenge for a young Bear team to go out and get a victory. Xavier Hutchinson's one of the best receivers in the conference, and they've got some other good offensive weapons around. Hunter Decker's the new quarterback who gives you a little bit of running ability, but he also gives you a little stronger arm than Brock Purdy. And then on the other side of the ball, you lost some star power up front with Owazarike and Mike Rose and a couple other key guys. But, you know, it's still the same Iowa State three-man front, drop 8 dime coverages that you've seen for the last half a decade. And they're always reliable. They're always in position. They're always physical. And you're going to have to go beat them. They're going to make you execute up and down the field. And we'll see how well that Baylor offense can do it.
I thought there was a really interesting quote in your column from Tom Manning about their offense and what Matt Campbell does, about how he has things he likes to do, but he doesn't have what you'd call an overall philosophy.
Right. They're looking at the players they have, and then from there, they're looking at formations to get those players into positive positions. And then based off the results of those two, then they get into what kind of plays they're going to run. You know, Campbell and his offensive coordinator are both old Mount Union guys, and that's the Purple Division III team that if you grew up in the 90s and 2000s, you saw in December on ESPN, winning national title after national title after national title at the Division III level. Very strong program culture there that Campbell's been able to import into Ames. And he did it at Toledo before he even got to Ames. Actually beat Iowa State the year before Iowa State hired him. Just very strong program culture, very strong sense of identity in terms of what they're trying to do on both sides of the ball. But offensively, I'm really interested to see what they have, because Iowa really shut that offense down for the vast majority of the game. And other than Iowa, they really haven't played a defense. It's early in the season, and you can usually blow these kind of holes in anybody's schedule. But with so many guys turned over from the prior year, it's going to be really interesting to see, because you no longer have Charlie Kolar and Chase Allen at tight end. That duo really gave you some flexibility because they were both such good receiving tight ends, but they could also be viable blockers. You don't have Breece Hall, who's, it's a tall order to come in right after David Montgomery and still be probably the best NFL prospect your program has had. And he did it. You've got three absolute game changers on the offensive side of the ball schematically that are missing. And while Jarrell Brock and Easton Dean and Jared Russ are solid players, they're not going to force the matchups to the same degree that those guys did. And just another article I did this week just on kind of their depth chart and how experienced and athletic they are. They lost a ton coming out of last year. And to their credit, they've been able to hit the transfer portal. They've been able to develop some guys and grow them themselves over the last couple of years. So they're still going to be a very solid team, but it's going to be a lot of different faces. And they lost a lot of difference makers. I mean, last year, those two tight ends and Breece Hall, just the number of times Baylor lost those guys in coverage, just flat out didn't cover those three, were just staggering. Allen had a couple times right up the sideline for big yardage. On the last drive, you had that 3rd and 8 where Brock Purdy looked to be sacked, but nobody was covering Breece Hall, and he almost gets the first down on that play. And then the final touchdown before the 2-point conversion that Baylor stopped, nobody even covered Breece Hall. It was just very sloppy in that aspect of the game, and it made a game where you had 2 special teams touchdowns turn the game for you. It turned that into a nail-biter.
Oh, yeah, and a nail-biter it was. If not for a bad snap at the end of the game, we don't know what would have happened there, at McLean Stadium last year. Now, Sam, I would say offensively for Iowa State, the one matchup nightmare they have for everybody, especially with the Baylor team with a secondary that's pretty green still, is Xavier Hutchinson. He is fantastic. He is not someone you'd want to roll out there and go one-on-one in coverage with. What have you seen from him?
He's an outstanding receiver. He's got the ability to win at the point of the catch. He's got the ability to get deep on you. He's probably not the fastest guy you're going to see all year, but he's definitely got legitimate speed. He's definitely not slow by any means. He's going to be, if he's not the best receiver you're going to see all year, it doesn't take long to call a roll to get to him. But I'm really curious to see how Baylor stops the run and how well they can pressure Hunter Deckers with their front four and with their kind of conservative aggression packages where you're simulating bringing a lot of guys, but you end up bringing 4. Or you bring one guy from depth to go with your front 3, where you're not necessarily overloading the protection, but you're stressing it. And you're able to get those pressures, but you're able to still play base coverages behind it. If you can stop the run and if you can pressure the quarterback doing that against Deckers, the times that I saw Ohio get to him, he looked like a guy that's going to look perfect if you let him sit back there. But the moment you kind of get in his face, the mechanics break down a little bit. He starts sailing it. And I think with Baylor's pressure packages that they've largely kept off of film so far and are both Aranda and Roberts' calling card, you've got to expect they're going to break a lot of those out this week. And that should pay some pretty good dividends as long as they can hold up in the run. I mean, last year, Breece Hall had about 3 really long runs. But other than that, they were able to keep Iowa State mostly under wraps, which is why Iowa State had to lean on the passing game to get the consistent yards that they were getting. But I'm really interested to see the playbook open on both sides of the ball. I think this is a game where the decision to switch quarterbacks in the offseason could pay really big dividends because Baylor got off to a quick start last year. But Iowa State absolutely camped out on what they were doing with Gary Bohannon in the second half, held him under 15 yards per drive in the second half. And you obviously can't have that be the case for a full game, or else you're not going to have much of a chance to win. And I think Chapin's ability to handle the shorter passing game and their ability to scheme guys open underneath that conservative Iowa State coverage, I think that will pay a lot of dividends. And this is a game that if Bohannon was here, I'd probably be predicting Iowa State comfortably.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that opening up the offense. A lot of that can come with Monterey Baldwin. Looks like he's going to be back, which is huge. Not sure on some of the other guys, but also Richard Reese and Squirrel Williams at running back, who we saw pretty much exclusively last week. How do you think they open up and match up against an Iowa State defense, like you said, is very consistent pretty much all the time?
Right. Iowa State's usually pretty reliable against the run, so they're going to have to do some things schematically to keep those extra safeties and overhang linebackers from flying in late to stuff the run with extra guys after their front four, meaning the down three and their interior linebacker. You know, their entire scheme is based around those guys filling guys outside so that their zone cover guys can run people down. You know, they want to make you execute over and over and over again because they know they can develop linemen in that part of the country. I mean, any successful program you've seen over the last several decades, from Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Kansas, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Minnesota, all of them have been able to grow linemen. But what they haven't really been able to develop a whole lot of are individual single cover guys. So by relying on those front defensive linemen and linebackers to stop the run, they're able to get more speed on the field to handle the coverages you see in the Big 12. And then from there, you can really force teams to execute and weaponize your own discipline. But where I think where the rubber hits the road for this offense is passing game has to execute. They're going to face a lot more and varied coverages than they've seen before. They're not going to face a ton of man coverage, which will be different than some of the coverages that they've seen. So some of these guys may end up performing a lot better against Iowa State than they would against somebody else who gets in their face a little more in terms of their routes. You know, it's something where you're not necessarily trying to stretch all areas of the field. You're trying to just take what's there. But Iowa State does a great job of mixing up their coverages, playing trap coverages, doing everything they can to disguise their intentions until the last minute.
So could this be a game where Baylor's, one of their weaknesses obviously in the season has been guys not taking a top off the defense, where that may not have to show very much because it's about yards after the catch underneath?
Yeah, I think against Iowa State, you'll certainly scheme up a shot play or two based off which zone coverages you expect to see, and you'll run one or two guys at certain points of that zone coverage to try and stress it to get somebody open in another portion of the field. But yeah, a lot of what you're going to have to do is they're going to take away the deep stuff just philosophically. And you're going to have to check down. You're going to have to hit accurately in the intermediate. You're going to have to take care of the ball, scramble when necessary. And I think those are things that when we've seen Chapin at his best, that's what he's doing. He's taking accurate throws. He's getting the ball out on time. Or if nothing's there, he's scrambling for decent amounts of yards. This is a kind of game plan that I think would play to a guy like Chapin's strength.
Do you think that defensively they will be able to start creating some turnovers, something for the last 2 seasons, or 3 seasons really, they've been pretty darn good at? Well, I guess 3 out of the 4 seasons, but they've been good at, but this year so far hasn't really happened that much.
I think they will, and I think you'll see a lot more of that as they open up the playbook a little more. You know, on both sides of the ball, you want to keep that playbook closed as long as you can, assuming you have the talent to just go out and win. Because what you're dealing with a lot of coaches who know you very well. They see you every year. They break down your film every year. Even when they're not playing you, you're playing a round robin, so they see you on film even when they're not playing you. You know, you don't want them to know on the offensive side of the ball, all right, your RPO and your pass concepts, at what depth are guys making their breaks? What kind of reads are the quarterbacks looking at specifically that we can drill in over the course of the week so we can muddy up his read. That's the kind of stuff they've kept off the film on the offensive side. And then on the defensive side, what kind of pressures do you like to bring? And based off of those, how can we coach our protection guys to give our quarterback a little extra time? Or how can we coach our quarterback and receivers to hit hot routes and things like that against those particular looks? I mean, in general, offenses do this in general, but to really tailor it to what you're doing. I remember when Charlie Brewer's kind of last home win at Baylor against Kansas State. I remember Kansas State's boundary safety had Baylor scouted pretty well. They kept trying to hit this RPO to the boundary, but that kid had enough time in the film room with it. He jumped up and kept batting the pass down, so kept giving Charlie the throw read, then just jumping up and batting the pass down right as he's trying to get the ball out. It was very good execution on film study. And I understand why they're trying to keep other teams from being able to do that this early in the season.
Well, Sam, thank you very much. As always, great stuff. S11 on SicEm365.com. He's got columns up right now. Please go read them. And if you're not subscribed to SicEm365.com, you can do that easily. Got a great promotion running now. If you just go and click on the link that we have about KWTX. It's great. Year-long subscription for $15. Can't beat it. Sam, have a great weekend. And we'll talk to you next week about whatever happens up in Ames, Iowa on Saturday.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
That's Sam Bradshaw, SicEm365.com. This is 365 Sports. Back in a moment.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy.
Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Welcome back, 365 Sports here on your Friday as we close things out. Paul Catalina and Garrett Ross is actually going to help us through the top 5 today. Smokey and Craig on their way to Midway for the high school game we've got to do tonight. I will follow close behind as soon as we are done here. So today I wanted to do some top 5 breakouts, and I was trying to mix and match positions, Garrett.
Right.
And it got really difficult.
I can see that.
Yeah, so there's guys that, maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't, but are certainly game changers this year. And I'll do these kind of throughout the next couple weeks at different positions.
Okay.
I think I'll go offense, defense. People you haven't heard of. There's plenty. Look, we can talk about Bryce Young, and we can talk about, Stetson Bennett all day long. Everybody knows who they are.
That's no fun.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud, but I thought we'd go through some of the top 5. And especially since I know that you were going to be doing this one with me, number 5 is Jordan Travis from Florida State.
You're the worst.
I just wanted to get to it first. I didn't want to build to it. I just wanted to rip the Band-Aid off. And I know this is a bit of a homer pick, but bottom line is their record with him the last 14 games he started is 10-4, I think. And I might be wrong. Please in the comments don't get me wrong, but they are, when he starts a game, they are usually winning, and 2 of those are 1-score losses to Clemson and Florida, and a couple of mishmash games in there, but they win when he's in there. He's a game changer, and he's super fun to watch.
He's definitely the most consistent quarterback I've seen at Florida State since Jameis.
Yeah.
And he's really a game changer. The way he's versatile, really, he put LSU's defense on its heels the entire game.
Yeah.
And he's so magnificent to watch. He's also a guy that's got real sound control of the team. Like everybody, you don't see, it's like all eyes on him when he speaks. And I think that's something that you've seen lacking there for such a long time, man. But it's fun to watch him cut loose, and just having that front row seat, watching him torch LSU hurt, but it was good for the program because it's good when Florida State's, in my opinion.
And I'll tell you this, my opinion on LSU has changed in the last couple weeks.
They've gotten better.
I think they've got a little bit more in their guts than I thought after that first game. Maybe that 99-yard drive woke them up and were like, okay, we can do things if we really...
Well, they got humbled. I mean, I think they went into that game saying, oh, well, this is another game in New Orleans. We're just going to take care of business. A lot of odds. It's like, no, Florida State's not going to put up with that.
Yeah, and it was, that game is going to affect a lot of people's opinions of both these teams all year, even though they're going to navigate through. Florida State takes on Boston College this week. Number 4, Cameron Ward from Wazoo. We've talked about him a little bit on the show, but not a lot. He was at Incarnate Word last year, transferred up with his offensive coordinator to Washington State to play for Jake Dykert, and they're fun. Washington State's fun. It's not just because of Cameron Ward. Has a lot to do with him. I feel like there's probably a lot of other schools, and there were schools in on him. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just Wazoo. He went with his offensive coordinator. There's probably a lot of schools wishing they'd hired the OC to take Cameron Ward with him.
I mean, there's plenty of schools inside of Texas. You could probably look at, I don't know, North Texas is like one where you can make an argument. But, I mean, there's plenty of opportunities. It's interesting to watch what he's been able to do because even going back to Incarnate Word, you could really tell he was special. But there's only so much you can do with the talent around him.
Yeah.
So being able to go up there and get some more, and I know Washington State's not getting your 5 stars and 4 stars regularly like other programs are, but when you could put the pieces around him and just kind of cut him loose with the familiarity already in place, it's not the same. I don't want anybody to get this twisted, but it's not exactly what we're seeing at Oklahoma, but it's very similar with just new scenery, new players around you, and you can get more out of your system because of everybody that's glued.
Look, Dylan Gabriel was fun to watch at UCF until he got hurt. And we knew about him, and then all of a sudden you put him around Eric Gray and Marvin Mims and all these dudes.
Game over.
It's like, holy cow, he can do it. Cameron Ward's the same way. Look, Incarnate Word's a Catholic school. There's another Catholic school in South Bend, Indiana, that I bet is wishing they might have Cameron Ward right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 3. Chase Bryce from App State, a well-traveled quarterback. He's been at 3 spots. He started out at Clemson. He was I want to say if he was the South Carolina or North Carolina, wherever he's from. And again, forgive my research. It's a Friday. But he was like one of the players of the year coming out. He was highly recruited. You wind up at Clemson. You're behind some dudes. You're behind the Deshaun Watsons of the world, and then obviously the Trevor Lawrences of the world, which he was behind Trevor Lawrence, and so he got lost in the shuffle there. But he has taken App State by storm. He had a really solid. He said he had a really solid game against North Carolina, a game they lost barely. That shouldn't even have been in based on the way the first half of the game went. Then. Beats Texas A&M and then wins at a Hail Mary against Troy the next week. He's a dude that's fun to watch, and I don't know what his football future is, but I'll tell you, if App State's on and I can watch him, I'll watch it because of Chase Bryce. He's traveled, and most of the time when a dude's been to 3 schools, I kind of turn him off, but he's kind of the exception to that rule for me.
That's what I was going to say. Is like when you go, a lot of the times when we talk about the transfer portal, it's mostly the negatives, right? Like it's very rare that we talk about the positives that come out of it. But when you look at this situation with Chase, I think this is one where you could look at the Texas A&M game, for instance. He went into that situation while App State in its own came in like, we're not intimidated. He has been in those environments before. And when you got that kind of confidence around you and you can go into a system as well established as App State's, I think you're going to see him flourish. And, I'm not really surprised by what he's been able to do there. But as far as, the next step, I don't know that he'll necessarily do anything in the NFL, but he's definitely somebody who could go and be an analyst or come back and coach because he's got a lot of knowledge up there and learning from under Dabo. And I mean, there's so much stuff that he's picked up and intangibles that he could pass on. But he's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, he's from Georgia. He's from Logan'sville, Georgia. So, he was highly touted coming out of Georgia and going to Clemson. Then he went to Duke after that. Number 2, Michael Penix Jr. From Washington. Maybe you knew a little bit about him. He had a good season in Indiana a couple years ago. Got hurt, transferred to Washington. He and Kalen DeBoer have people believing in UW again. And some of those recruits that they had held over from the pre-Jimmy Lake 2 or 3 years that was post Chris Peterson, and they've got guys that can play at Washington. They're fun. The Pac-12 is wide open. I know USC looks really good. Utah's returning a lot of guys. Oregon looks like they might be able to grab some momentum, but that sounds to me I'm describing a wide open league. The Pac-12 is wide open. Washington can very much contend for this league, especially when you got a guy like Michael Penix and the running backs and wide receivers that they have making plays all over the field right now. Not as good on defense as you probably want for a team that's going to win the conference title, but with him there, it doesn't much matter because he's making plays all over the place.
No, he is. He's a really solid asset to what they bring, and that's another situation where, sometimes it's just a new scenery that can bring out the most in you, and he's done some good things in the past, but it's interesting to see what he could do. I like the system he's in, and I think it's unique because Washington and Oregon are both in this situation, in my opinion, where all eyes are on them. And he does a good job of kind of handling the pressure and not letting that get to him. It kind of capitalizing and making up for the lack of help that they do get on the defensive end.
Yeah, absolutely. And then look, they're not awful there, but there's something to be desired. Especially Michigan State started to creep back into that game the other day. They had to make some stops, but it was pretty much in hand. And number one, and singing his praises all throughout Lawrence, Kansas, Jalen Daniels is so much fun to watch. By the ghost of Todd Reesing, the only other Kansas quarterback that you'd really want to talk about. As far as winning and regularly there, Jalen Daniels has got this team 3-0. I think they're going to be 4-0 against Duke. I don't think this game is going to be that close. I think that Kansas will score some points. Now, I do think Duke's going to make some stops and probably early. I just think that Kansas has too much offense, and it's mostly because of this dude right here. He's really coming to his own and just makes plays with his legs, with his arm. Lance Leipold has that offense humming. Duke's probably going to score more points this week than they would normally because Kansas's defense is still lacking. But Jalen Daniels is breathing life into a program that was completely lifeless and so fun to watch. And I would make an argument that right now he is the most fun player in the country to watch.
You can say
there's
that.
A lot. I mean, there's the running back Singleton at Penn State's really cool. And, I know C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young and all those guys are fun. Stetson Bennett's been really awesome. But Jalen Daniels, especially maybe it's just given the situation and the story, I'm having fun watching him play.
I think that, first off, we wouldn't even be talking Kansas football if it wasn't for Jalen Daniels. Yeah. So, and he's one of those that you can just kind of tune in and you never know what you're going to expect. He's got kind of that Johnny Manziel magic in a sense. But he's dynamic in what he brings from a leadership standpoint. And a lot of times we see players and teams kind of take the identity of their coach. And I think that he does that on the field, kind of taking what Lance Leipold is telling him out there and getting everybody to buy in collectively as a group. But yeah, I mean, he's a lot of fun. He's really talented. And it's exciting to see where he can take Kansas as the season progresses. But I mean, he's tremendous, dude.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see where they can go. Look, if they get a win today, then to get to a bowl game, they've got to find 2 more.
Oh yeah,
and there'll be teams that ebb and flow in the Big 12, just like they will ebb and flow because they're going to play Oklahoma eventually, and that's probably not something they're ready for. But a game they were in for 3 quarters last year until a miracle Caleb Williams play. You don't know. Like this team, I think there's a factor where the best thing that's happened to them, other than the fact that they're winning, is now you cannot chalk it up as long as we are in this game in the fourth quarter, we're gonna beat Kansas, because that's not the case anymore.
Well, I also think like a lot of it too is when you look at the matchups is, well, I think you first gravitate like quarterbacks, right? Like who is your quarterback matchup? And for instance, when you talk about Kansas, and I'm looking at the rivalry with Kansas State, I think that's a game where if you look at the paper, I'm taking Daniels over Martinez.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a situation where that could be one of those games that could means a lot, all the emotion going into it, that they could kind of sneak out that one win there and maybe find another one along the way. But the fact that he has Kansas undefeated and on a national radar is just amazing to me.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. This list was going to be 5 things that George Kliavkoff should have put in the letter to the Cal Board of Regents to get UCLA to stay, but I found that sad. So
yeah, we don't need a crown on Friday.
I don't know why he even, I know why he's got to write the letter, but at the end of the day, come on, buddy.
He just needs to stop. Just
not
quit,
gonna,
man.
It's not
Cut
going
it
to change anything.
No.
Write a letter to the Pope too. Like just write letters to whoever.
Just send them out abroad.
And just say like, hey, this is going to be bad if UCLA goes to the Big Ten. And because he's also in the letter not stating his figures, but we've talked about that already. But yeah,
I was gonna say, but even if you keep him, like, what the hell are you gonna do? You just ruined your relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they're not gonna trust you.
Yeah,
that's a mess, man.
Yeah, it's like tricking your wife into not divorcing you.
Yeah,
and then when she wakes up, she's gonna be like, "Wait a minute,
this is fine.
Nothing's changed." Yeah, no. I don't want to go. I don't want to go to your in-laws' house this weekend. I don't want to do that.
Yes.
That's why we're getting divorced. All right, that's going to do it for us. We are back again tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, for the pregame show, Game Day Live on KWTX. Baylor and Iowa State got tons of great stuff, including pizza from Blake Blackmar.
Ooh,
yeah, ooh yeah. That's all I'll say. That's all I can say legally is that Blake is cooking pizza. And
we already know.
We'll see that on the tailgate show from his tailgate series tomorrow on Game Day Live. I'm Paul Catalina for David Smoak, for Garrett Ross, for Jack McKenzie, Levi Caraway, Emery Winter, and Jacob Wilson. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend.